generation. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in my life. Looking for inspiration all the time. Looking for, looking for, looking for, looking for. Hey!
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome to another rendition of Spline Design Studios Saturday. Trying to get these things going in on time as usual. Welcome everybody coming in. I know Torch was playing some mini games there. Got some slots. Weren't successful on the shot. I noticed that there. Just making sure everything's working on that. Welcome everybody coming in. I did not get the uptime going there again. I got to fix that here really quick. I don't know how to get that to come in line, I guess, with using this particular scene, I guess, for that. So I need to figure that out, I guess, at some point. Let's see here. No damn vid again? What the hell's up with that? Wish I could understand what's going on with that there, Chavez. I'm thinking it's got to be more on your end, I guess, as far as with the mobile Twitch app. It's the only thing I can think of. I wish I had some more insight, I guess, on that. Fortunately, I do not. The only thing I don't know, like this, let me check this here really quick. I guess let me get this fixed here really quick. I'm gonna check my transcoding because I've had a couple people telling me I don't get any transcoding. The fact that I do run, I have been running primarily on 720p 60 frames on the regular. That may necessarily be a part of the problem. I don't know. If I go any lower than that, that's going to kind of reduce, I guess, the quality of that. I can't go any higher. I do know that much. If I go to the 1080, as far as the 6,000 bit rate, PC will just crap out. So. And that's not a possibility. So I figured the 720p at 60 frames would have been a nice, nice even keel, I guess, as far as a middle ground, if you will. But all right, what are we at time-wise here? I gotta fix this uptime here on my countdown. Oops, I forgot to get this going here too. Let's do that. Res is only 720. Yeah, that's all it should be. You should be getting at least a 720 at 60 frames. Yeah. Right. And that's should be the way it's going. That should be the way it should work. Because like I said, I run at the 720p 60 frames. That should be like that. So if the information that I've been getting from some other people doesn't give them any transcoding whatsoever. It only has the auto. And then I think the lowest is like 360 or whatever that is. So not even getting the 720 in some cases. But that's also on the mobile app, the Twitch app. So I can't control that, unfortunately. That's something Twitch needs to fix. All I can do is stream at what I can stream at so that the stream is solid, as far as the bit rate and whatever. But if I reduce it any more than what it's at now, the quality goes down the pooper. So hopefully I don't really have to do that. Okay. Okay, that's going. That's all live. Cool. Just loading some things up here, folks. Just bear with me a moment. So we are at... trying to get this lined up here. But I will check that, at least on my end, just to make sure that is the case. Because I know it is going to be different on the mobile Twitch app as opposed to just a PC browser. That much I do know. Let's see, let's do 08. By the time I get there, let's do 40 and start. Okay, that should hopefully line that up. I think we are go Gucci. Cool, right on cue. Alright, so we got the uptime going there. I find that uptime does work pretty good there, especially I've been checking out the VODs to see what areas of the VODs for Spline Design Studios Saturday can work very well, I guess, as far as just a hot little clip. I do definitely recommend and hopefully get some help, I guess, from you, the viewers, I guess, to assist in the creation, I guess, of potential clips, I guess, for these streams here on Saturday. Because I know there's a lot of information that is put out there. But if there's something that really stands out to you that is really important, that you want to remember it, feel free to use the exclamation point clip in the chat. That does at least send me a notification to let you know that that timestamp or whatever was of what was discussed in that part of the stream. That way it gives me somewhat of an idea of what to look at, because sometimes I miss a lot of it. There's plenty of information, like I said, that gets put out there. For the things I go over on these streams here for Spline Design Studios Saturday, like I said, and there's a lot of things I think I get missed as far as like what could be used as a short little clip, like a 1 minute clip, just to show a once over as far as like, oh yeah, that's how you do that. I want to be able to put some more of those types of things together. So again, I guess I'm asking y'all's assistance or whatever. If you see something that looks really important, even if it doesn't really apply, I guess, to something you would use. If it seems like really important, if you think that it's something that would be clip worthy, either clip yourself, but also to make it a little bit easier so you don't have to navigate away from the stream, exclamation point clip in the stream. We'll get to that there. Alright, let me check this on my end. So I'm just kind of curious here. Now you got me curious. As I tested a couple of streams yesterday, as far as late night, so that's obviously a different time of the day. So I'm gonna check this out here and see what I got. So it is for PC browser, at least anyway. It is showing me the 720p 60 frames, which is my source, and that's normal. And yeah, that's about all it gives me, is between that and the auto. Now that's been normal. But as far as being able to go lower than that, again, that's something I cannot control. That's a Twitch thing. If they don't want to give me the encoding, then and nothing I can do about that. When you wreck, it's important. Yeah, there you go. See, there you go. But also informational type of stuff too. That's the other thing. I tend to want to emphasize anything that is considered informational as well. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to discount it as far as whenever I do something a little bit crazy like that, as far as wreck while I'm racing and what, yeah, definitely. I don't discount those at all. Those are still very much in play, but yeah, the informational stuff in particular. There's a lot of stuff I want to be able to build up the informational clips, just to kind of give real hot tip, quick clip type of information. And I know there's a lot of stuff, a lot of information that get put out there all the time, and I can't say that enough. So, okay. So I did get some new information. One of the first things to be going over here with Spline Design Studios Saturday is got some new information from Torch on the Dover International Speedway track build for the NASCAR Racing 2003 racing simulation. And we're going to get that applied. I'm going to just go right from the beginning. Instead of getting this all set up pre-stream, I figured I'll just go through the motions here, just to kind of give you some insight as far as like how this process works. Again, a lot of it may necessarily turn out to be summary, but yeah, we'll definitely go ahead and take care of that. Just a second here. We're going to go through the motions here anyway. Okay. I've got another thing here. Okay. Right. Go ahead and close this out. I'm going to close some things out. Something else that I've found works out pretty good for me. Just to make sure to ensure that the stream is going to run smooth is just to keep a lot of applications turned off. Any applications that I'm not using, I just shut them off. Because for whatever reason, and I think at first there I thought it had a lot to do with just my own system here, but it does tend to relate to internet connection too. Just signal from the ISP and things like that too. That does affect what's going on. So if there's not enough signal, say for example, and I'm hardwired to the router, I've done all this testing, you know, and I've even got a stream, I guess, of that on this channel. I guess it shows that I'm always hardwired against the PC to the router, right? I never run Wi-Fi. But the fact whenever the internet signal is strained, as far as being bottlenecked or even throttled, it tends to put a strain on the PC. That's something, I don't know if that's something new, I guess, that the ISPs are doing. I guess as far as to make the PC work harder, you know, as far as to gain, I guess, some traction, I guess, on the lower internet signal. I don't know what the heck's going on with that, but that's something I've kind of noticed. That whenever the internet signal is doing that, when it's weak, you know, as far as like it's not at strongest point, it tends to make the PC, everything on the PC just strain. Especially, no matter if I'm trying to strain stuff or download or upload or anything. And I think that's kind of nuts. So there is some fault, I guess it can be said, I guess, about ISPs, as far as like reducing the internet signal that you paying for, I guess, as far as to put some strain on the PC. I've noticed that even on my mobile devices too, as far as just the strain that's on, as far as like the signal, just the overall performance of it coinciding with the weak signal just strains everything. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's up with that, but it kind of frustrates me. Chavez redeemed a VIP for the month. Oh yeah, that reminds me too. I did have with all the things that Twitch has done in the back end, I've had to do some cleaning house in the back end there, which yeah, that's one of them as far as like just the roles in there. So Chavez, let me take care of that for you right away. I'm glad to know that that's actually working. Reward queue. Let's see if I can do it this way. Will that work? Twitch getting some things right, I suppose. Alright, let's go in here. Yep, here it is right here. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't take me to... That's kind of dumb. I was hoping maybe it would take me right to the roles screen there. That's just for the request. Okay. I'll see how you work. No problem there. I can actually fix that. Let's go like this. I gotta go actually into the roles manager first. Okay. So we want to add a new one. And we need to search. We're gonna get this taken care of right away. Don't you worry. Let's see. Let's make sure I get type it in right. Yep, that's the one, and we want to do that. Save. There, that should be taken care of. And we'll mark that off as good to go. Right? So let's do that. Whoops. Take me back. Take me back. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we're back there. And then, yeah, I'm still getting used to this because Twitch did some recent updates, I guess, to the back end here. It was supposed to be a little help me a little bit more, I guess, but I don't know if it is or not. I was hoping maybe that would just take me right to the roles there, but I guess it didn't. It's a little bit wonky yet, I think, but we'll work with it. Okay, so Chavez, you should have that VIP now. I'm gonna mark that as complete. Okay. Cool. So it's kind of halfway. It's halfway better, but not all the more better, like I said, I thought it would be. So, alright. Getting right into the thick of it here. Yeah, we're going to go right all the way through the process here of applying the information. So, especially if you're working on a track build, collaboratively, I guess with somebody else, and they'll have information that they've done with the track as opposed to what you've done, and so on. So how you share that information back and forth without stepping on each other's process there. This is something that you would need to work out, and I think Torch has got a really good handle on this here, and I'm going to go through the steps step by step. So I've got the track open here. It's still set up from what we did last week. Let me bring this over here, actually. I'm sorry. Let's bring this right on over. Apologize for that. So yeah, I got the track open here. This is all set up from what was shown last week as far as the changes made then. The most recent updates that we have to the track. Let's get this loaded up here. One of the things that Torch did redo was this press box. So we're going to get that applied. And he's got some information here as far as like what it started out as. 122 polys, 386 verts. It's now down to... oh, wait a minute. This is the reduction. So this is what it started off with. And then this is what it is now. So that's pretty phenomenal. And I kind of pointed it out. I didn't even know without actually looking at the actual raw model. Because obviously Torch built that in the first place. So that's something to take into consideration. If I would have taken the 3D SimEd application and spit that out as a 3DS, it would be a bogus amount of verts. It would actually, this number would have been a lot higher for the number of polys and verts if I would have done it that way. So the fact that Torch had the original model, I guess as far as to go from scratch, now he's reduced that down from this one right here in particular as far as the number of polys. That was almost 3,000 polys down to 386. That, I mean, when you really look at that, that's almost a 300% decrease. I mean, probably even more than that. This is a huge decrease there, which is actually going to be a benefit. So I don't know. Torch can maybe fill me in on this. You do give me. I always assume with the new PTF that you've made some other changes besides this. So we're gonna put the new PTF to it. And if this is just a direct replacement, I guess, for the press box, we don't really need it. That's probably something just to mention. If there are other changes besides just the replacement, I guess, of this press box, then we need that. I'm going to go ahead and apply this if this, just to making that assumption that there are other changes besides just that replacement. So, okay. So, just to give you some insight, I guess, then, Torch, if that's the case, I wouldn't necessarily need to have the PTF if it's just a direct replacement, I guess, of that model, for example. If they had been moved or adjusted, I guess, as far as the placement of it, then yes, absolutely. But just because of what I've got here, I'm going to go ahead and just take what you have. I'm going to back everything up that I have here in the track folder just to make those comparisons. That's the approach that I take, at least for the stream. But you can also do this for yourself just to see how much of an impact it does or doesn't have, I guess, on the track, either in Sandbox or the game itself. So I'm going to back this PTF up. And I don't have an SBX file, which you don't really need to load it in Sandbox, right? It's just the SBX file is mainly just a quote-unquote settings type of file. So anytime you do load the track up and save, as far as a session, it'll create what's somewhat of a persistence. There's really not that much in the SBX file other than maybe how you had your background image, camera settings, and things like that are applied to that particular track. That's really all that does. You don't really need it, I guess, as far as to get it to work, for example, in the sim. So you can definitely open up a PTF without an SBX file. And that's what we did last week, too. Okay, just those files, no problem. So we got the CAM file, so I'm going to look for this press box, which is the original model that was applied to the track, which has been redone. So the press box is down. Let's see what we got here. What's the name of that bad boy? Let's go back to here. So it's this press box. Both that and the MIP as far as the texture for it. Oh, okay. I think I'm getting it. So do we have anything to remove here? Let me open this up here really quick and see what we got here. So we got press box extras. Okay, so do we have this thing? So as I'm seeing right here so far, I don't have an actual press box. Unless I'm missing it here. I have the MIP file. I'm going to take a look at that and compare those two. So the press box rails left and right. So I'm assuming you must have combined all this. Oh, Dover press box, gotcha. Okay, let's take a look at that. So we got some press box features here. So that wasn't in the notations here, or was it? Did I miss that? Copy over and replace press box MIP. Okay, remove these items. Okay, there we go, right there. So this is the information that I just. I'm just getting this information, and we're applying this right from the step. So this is good information as far as like what has been replaced, as far as even the naming of stuff. So all this stuff is being removed. So yeah, it's called Dover press box. So the fact that you've run it out there was just a matter of I didn't have to read the information. So we got to look for Dover press box. I'm gonna crunch all these out of here, and then we'll compare it, I guess, to what we have to replace that. So that in itself, just kind of reiterating, I guess, is what I said about the PTF. Because there's new files that are applied to it, you got some removed files, for example. That's going to require a new PTF. Okay, so that's just to coincide. Now, if there wasn't anything like this, as far as to have to remove items, for example. Nothing else done. If it was just a direct replacement, I guess, of one object to the next with the same naming and whatever, there would be no need for a PTF. In this case, there would be. In this case, there definitely would be, because we're removing these from that previous PTF. These are no longer applied to it, so I would definitely need to have that new PTF. So that's just to kind of elaborate, I guess, as far as the necessity of needing that PTF for that. Okay. Alright, so what we want to do, we already backed up that, so I'm going to back up all this stuff here. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to actually chunk these out. The PTF I'll leave in there. We should have a Dover press box. Get into the D's here, so we got Dover press box. Here we go. And I'm assuming that uses that press box MIP. I'm just going to check this out really quick. I just want to take a look. This is one way you can check to see what textures are applied to that 3DO, and we can see that press box MIP right there is being used for that up. Okay, so this we're replacing. We're also replacing press box extras left and right. We're gonna go to our information here. So we're replacing this press box extras rails left and right, as well as that texture. I'm gonna pull these all out and put this onto the desktop, and we're gonna make some comparisons here. Alright, I'm gonna put these right over here. Actually, I'll make a new folder here and dump them in there just for temporary, so we'll probably end up getting rid of them. Alright, so these are all the stuff we're replacing. So I want to open this one up. This is our original texture. Yeah, here's our original texture. So we're going to open this up with WinMint 2. I don't know if there's any changes that have been made, but I want to kind of check that out anyway. So we'll go to desktop and go to that new folder. Where am I at? New folder, right there. So this is the original texture. Pretty well designed there, and I want to compare that to the new one, which is in that other folder here. So we got, let's see, where did I go? Did I leave that out? I think I left it out. Ah, where did I do with it? Petty Bridge, nope. Where the heck did I put that sucker? Just a second here. I know it's out here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Dover press box. There we go. So here's the new texture. This is the one that's new. So we're going to open this up in here and see how we got. Now, immediately off the bat, I can see there's definitely the changes that have been made. as far as the layout of the texture. So we got different areas here for the railings, the new railings and stuff like that, as far as being a flat plane, as far as in comparison to just having them solid, you know, 3D. So that we got all this area has been changed and adjusted very well. He's kind of cleaned it up a little bit too. Yeah, looks pretty good in comparison. So you got some railings here, and I'm not sure what was here originally, but you got still the application of the transparency as far as the alpha channel into the texture. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so the main area that's been adjusted here is all through here. So I can see here as far as for all the new railings. Now we're going to check this out in the sandbox here once we get that here. I just want to make that little comparison there. Now the size of the actual texture didn't change, but the overall look of it, as far as the accommodate, I guess the new railings that have been applied to the object are obviously changed. Okay, so with all that out, now we want to put the new stuff in here. Copy all this stuff over. Now I've already backed up the PTF as I showed, and we're going to need this new PTF, just like I said, just to kind of reiterate and ensure, I guess, as far as what we're doing is correct. So we want to go to the track unpack folder here, and we're going to plop these all in here. Now I shouldn't get any replace because I already pulled all those items out, so this is going to be all brand new. So we got our new press box. That's all one piece now, as opposed to the individual pieces that we had. So that's, to me, that's actually cleaning up the track folder quite a bit. The fact that we've got it all just in one object now as opposed to several pieces. So that's a definite improvement there, on top of the optimization of the size of this by itself. So in here we can see initially, and we're going to look at this in sandbox too, still a pretty daggone cool looking object, I guess, as far as with the transparency in there. Now, like I said, you want to definitely make sure that you're checking this in the sandbox as well as in the game, and don't go by what you see in 3D Sim at 100%. But from what I can see here, initially it loads, there's no issue, it doesn't crash as 3D Sim is, so that's definitely a good sign. Okay, yeah, and I can definitely, as I just shown there, I guess the texture has been adjusted there, and it looks like it's very feasible. So we're gonna load this up in sandbox now and see what we got. So we're gonna double click on this here and just open up in sandbox. We got all our new items in there. We shouldn't get any errors. That's the other thing I'm gonna look for. So if we get any errors, then we have to take care of that. I'm expecting this to go ahead and just load right up. Give that a second here. Is it gonna load or what? There we go. Yeah, I gotta give it a second on my end here because my monitor, just, you know, my display here, it doesn't show it on the screen. It's still showing the track for you all, but I gotta wait a couple seconds for it to. There we go. That's just on my end. That's just because of my multi-display. I've got every monitor has got its own task. So Windows necessarily has to be like, okay, you want me to do what? And then it takes it a second or two, just to kind of line that up is all. So now we're good. So we got the track open. And let me turn that down just a tad there. There we go. Got to adjust some audio. Yeah, so I'm going to close that up. Just to kind of free up some resources. Alright. Cool. Alright, here we go. So we got the track loaded up here. We didn't get any errors, which is a good sign. Very, very, very good sign. So when you initially open up, double click on a sandbox file as opposed to opening sandbox and then navigating to PTF, you're always usually end up right in the center of your track, underneath the track. It depends on the elevation of your track too, in the center, as far as the center of the. So where I was there, as far as the elevation is, that elevation is high. You know, it's above 0, and that's because of all this elevation that we've got there. That's why it puts me there. That's just a little bit of information on that. Man, this thing is running so smooth now. So daggum smooth. I'm not getting any chopping. Not nearly as much as we have been. So there's definitely some positive improvements made to this track to help optimize and smooth this thing out. I mean, I'm getting no no choppiness at all as far as I navigate around here. Maybe a little bit this way, but not nearly as bad. I mean, with everything that's been done so far between the bridges, these garages on both ends of the track, and now this press box, which we're going to navigate over here to. There's still some things that can probably be optimized for sure. Mainly like this one here, that can probably be reduced. And I think, Torch, you had mentioned you had wanted to get... now, you had mentioned to me, I guess, as far as getting the original model, I guess, here from James. Okay. But here's my challenge to you. You've got the original model, or I shouldn't say the original model, you've got the model to be able to spit this out as a 3DS from 3D SimEd. Now, don't use that directly, right? But use that as a template to be able to create this thing over again. Now, if you can get it from James, that's fine. I'm not suggesting or whatever that you don't try to do that, but my challenge to you is to see if you can recreate this, recreate this thing. Just finished the media center, but I didn't have time to get... Oh, you did? So you did finish it. Were you able to get it from James? Or did you recreate it? My challenge would have been, and I kind of looked at this myself, he's like, you know what? I remember when James had done this here, he was trying a lot of new things that he's learned, I guess, as far as the modeling. As far as like boolean cutting and things like that to get textures to show up where you want them on a model and such. So... that's not to say the way he done this was terrible, but he's definitely improved on his ability to be able to create something, I guess, probably a little bit better than this. I'm sure if he was here, he would probably definitely justify that. But there's definitely some things that... But my challenge would have been, as I looked at this here, this could definitely be recreated. To use this as a template. Excuse me. Use this as a template. To recreate that, and I'm not sure if that's the way you did it. Oh yeah, so you did recreate it. So I definitely think it would have been easy enough to do that. And yeah, so the fact that you do have it and I don't, that's kind of big sad. But I will look forward to getting that from you to see like that, because I think you know, just kind of reiterating, I guess, as far as the way James had done this in the first place. He probably could have reduced some polys and some verts and stuff like that, because he was still learning some things. I remember when he did this here, he was still learning how to boolean cut, and how that he knows a lot much more than he did back then, as far as this. Not that this is a terrible model, and I'm not discounting it that way at all. I'm just saying it could be done better, much more optimized. And I think yeah, I'd be curious to see as far as what you've done with that anyway. The stairs to the left were crazy high poly count. As far as those wood stairs, I just passed it along that. So these wood stairs. I mean, even the texture on it's kind of cool. It looks pretty simple, I guess, from this thing, but without looking in, I guess, from the, you know, the direct. But most of the mapping, and I pointed this out here, and you know, James pretty much knows what's going on with this. The way the stretching on the fencing here was really about the only thing that really needed to be fixed on it texture-wise, because it's missing some. It's either missing some polys here or just texturing there, and or just needs to be corrected on that fencing. That was really about it. Really about it. Everything else looks solid. But to be able to take this model, like I said, what you wouldn't want to do is take the model from 3D SimEd, spit that out as a 3DS, bring it in there, and then just fix it from that 3DS that you export from. Not a good idea. In most cases, you would need to rebuild that. Because if you take the 3DS model, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, if you take the model from the 3DS that's exported from 3D SimEd, you're just compounding the problem. As far as it, because by default, what 3D SimEd does when you export that 3DO model as a 3DS, it's going to at least triple, if not quadruple, the number of polys in it. And this has been proclaimed even by the creator of the 3D SimEd application, Dave Noonan. He 100% will clarify, I guess, the fact that that's what it does. Let alone, I don't know if he's necessarily taken the initiative, I guess, to fix that problem with the NASCAR 2003 3DOs doing that. I know he's kind of focusing more, I guess, on the newer racing simulations, like I said, Corsa and Project Cars and things like that. So I would have to assume at this point he probably hasn't. So that is the thing, I guess, with that. Even though it has that option in 3D Sim to be able to do that, don't use that model directly as far as to edit that. If anything, just use it as a template or a guide to recreate that model. The building by itself is 142 polys. Your new model, or is that the this model here? Stairs to the left were 128 polys. Okay. Now, are you going by just what I? Okay, from the original. So were you able to get the original model, I guess, from James? Am I hearing that right? And that's what he had? I mean, it doesn't really surprise me. Like I said, I know, regardless if that was the case, then I know he knows, and I know he would, if he was here, I guess he would clarify that and justify it as well, that it's not necessarily a low poly model. You know, he did. It could have been done a little bit better, yeah. So the 142 and 128 polys was, again, I guess I'm a little bit confused, I guess, as far as where you get those numbers. Is that from exporting this out? Because that would be kind of, you know, that's going to automatically be, I guess, bogus, you know, as far as, like, cause you would have to go by what James originally did, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if that was the numbers that you got as far as exporting it out to recreate it, maybe you can clarify that a little bit. I think there's some misinformation there. But, yeah, anyway, that was going to be my challenge to you to be able to do just that. Because I looked at it myself as far as I exported this out as a 3DS to 3D Sim Ed. It's like, you could easily recreate that. And, you know, just re-optimize, I guess, as far as the number of polys and such in there. Because there's some polys in there that you don't really need either in this particular model. Yeah, so what we were trying to get to the point of here, I'm just checking everything out, make sure everything's running smooth here. So nothing's crapping out. Yeah, that's good. Very good, very good. Appreciate everybody dropping on in here, even if you are lurking in the chat. Appreciate that. We want to take a look at this new press box. So what we'll probably do, this is the new one, right? So we can see all the things that have been updated on this deal here, and they line up really nice as far as the railings. So it does still stand proud, I guess, as far as to show that it does have all railing back here. It's even got some railing on the back here. Now he's removed the poly on the back here, which is not a bad idea, because you're not really going to see that in most cases. About as far back as you'll usually go as far as like camera views would probably be about like this anyway, because you're not going to be way back here. I mean, if you do put a camera right here, you might want to fix that issue, but in most cases, you're probably not. You're probably going to be like something like this, which you're not going to see that missing poly in the back of that. So that's actually a good use of reducing polys that you don't need to have on a structure. So this is what the new one looks like. What I'm going to do is kind of revert back to the original PTF, and we're going to compare this. In fact, what I'll do is I'll take a little snippet here, and we'll kind of compare the look of it. So we can see how the railing and such looks on this one here, which has the flat planes with the alpha channel, I guess, to make that 3D looking railing, right? So we're going to take a snippet of this. So let me pause it there. Let's go snipping tool, and we'll compare these this way. So save this little snippet. Oh, my bad, I didn't want to do that. Let's compare this here. And really all I want to really show as far as like just how much definition is in this model by just applying simple flat planes with the transparency, and it gives it all that dimension. You don't really need to have, you know, something that's 3D railing, I guess, to give it that 3D effect. I guess that's all I want to compare. So there's that snippet. Now what I want to do, I'm going to close this out, and we're going to revert to the original PTF like I said. So let's do new. Close that out. And I'm going to save this. I still got all this information over here in the new stuff here, so I'll be able to apply that back. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just pull these back out. Pull all these back out. Let's see, here's the press box. That. These are new items. Let's pull these right back out. Put them back in here. Just going to revert it, that's all I'm going to do. So that's all the same stuff. And then I want to put the original stuff back in here. That's why I put that in that other folder. So rename this. And this is what's a pretty good idea for you to even compare, I guess, your notes. You know, just kind of see, like, man, it looks so much better. You know, as far as like you get kind of like a histogram, I guess, of stuff that you've done. So that's the new stuff. This folder here, I'm going to put all this stuff back real quick. So copy all that back in. So I'm reverting back to that backed up PTF before we applied all the changes. I'm putting these back. I'm going to leave these highlighted so I'll be able to pull these right back out. So I won't off click it. I'll be able to pull these right back out once I load this up here. So what I'm going to do, instead of double clicking on the PTF, I'm going to load my sandbox from my applications here. So let's go like this. And I got my sandbox utility right here. So I'm going this way instead of just double clicking on the PTF, for example. So I can open it this way, and now it should go ahead and point right to Dover, which it does. So this is going to be that original PTF before the changes. So when we open this one up, that's going to load up the original press box, and we'll be able to take a comparison. We'll go to the camera view on that one and compare it to the snippet that we just saved, and see how much lack of, you know, there's no loss in the quality of the structure by reducing it in the fashion that Torch has. So we'll go to camera view. Now see, this is what I was talking about as far as like when you load the track up this way, it's going to put you in the center line as far as on the start front, as opposed to double clicking on the PTF itself. It puts you in the center. In that case, it was below the track surface because of the elevation. This is the difference. So if you want to necessarily load it this way and get it this way, then you want to load, open up your sandbox and then the PTF. So they'll put you right on this basically where the lead segment would be on the center line. That's basically what it's showing here. So it just all depends on how you want to be, how you want the track to load is all. So as I load it this way, yeah, it's just kind of clipped there just for a little bit. It kind of hesitated, and that's only because now I expected that to happen. You notice that little bit of a stutter? I think a lot of that problem as far as that stutter was this press box. This is the original one before the update, right? It's got all these polys in here, all this 3D. So I think that's why it stuttered. So that's another reason why I loaded the track that way, just to kind of get it to do that, because I expected it to do that. And it's not stuttering anymore, but you saw that initial stutter there. You don't get that with the new model, and that's all cause, I guess, for the fact that it's more now optimized. So we can compare this now. I'll put this in this view, so this is live as far as original model, and then I got my snippet, which is right here. So we can kind of put these side by side and see. Look at the difference on that. The only difference that I see is in the color of the railing, but you can notice the definition that's still in, and this is all flat planes. Just with trans or alpha, alpha channel into the texture, you don't lose any dimension, I guess, to that at all as far as it looking 3D, especially with having that back facing, the front and back facing, I guess, on the polys to make it, give it that dimension. So you don't necessarily need to apply, 3D pieces to it to give it that 3D look. This is kind of like trick of the eye if you want to. Even the railings that are on top here. So really the only difference that I see is the coloring of the, some of these beams here. That's it. So as far as the fact that it doesn't look 3D is not even an issue. I think the new one looks more realistic. In most cases, yeah, that's probably fair. To me, not that this looks bad, it just doesn't work for Enter 2003. So like any other newer simulations, just pick one, anything that's newer than Enter 2003, this probably wouldn't, this would be okay. But the fact that we do have the issue that exists with having a model like this in Enter 2003 doesn't work. So the fact that we still have the ability of being able to give that 3D look, even with textures. Now the fact that you've got the magenta background as opposed to having as a TI, that just goes to show that's even better, because you didn't really end up reducing, I guess, the texture size itself, but using that TI, you would end up being like 1.33 megabytes as opposed to the 683 that the texture currently is. So by not using a TI with this, that even more optimized. I mean, it was already optimized in the first place as far as texture, but you're continuing to use that optimized texture on the optimized model now at this point. So that's even better. That's definitely a huge improvement. So you're not only taking advantage of reducing the file size itself as far as the texture applied to the model, but also the model, just the basic construct of the model itself as well. So that's definitely using both aspects as far as optimization to a T. That's perfect. So yeah, that is at least showing, I guess, the two different ways. Yeah, as far as the improvements on that anyway. So let's go ahead and close this out. We're going to put our new stuff back in there. So we definitely want to keep it that way. So let's do a new, close it right out. That's our snippet. We don't need it anymore. You know what I forgot to do? Let me, hold on a second here. I want to do something here. So I want to save this actually. Just for prosperity. Let's do edit copy. I'm going to put this into my paint program here because I'm definitely going to save this. Just to show the differences here. So we got paste. There we go. I'm going to leave that right up in there. I'm going to save that for prosperity, like I said. So this is... I'm going to back this one up again. And until we can confirm that... I'm sure, Torch, you've already done all the testing in the sim and all that stuff directly. I haven't done that yet. So just to kind of... yeah, see, and I already screwed up. I clicked out of that, but that's okay. I'll be able to pull those back out. While you use it, yeah. So I'm going to assume anyway that you had already tested this in the sim, and for on your end or whatever, it's actually, you know, proof positive. I guess I haven't done that yet, so I want to be able. So once I've proven in the sim itself that everything's solid, then I'll go ahead and purge all these PTFs. You know, as far as backed up stuff, and I'll just move forward, I guess, with the new PTF. Right. So we want to take out this, and that. Okay, and then we got the Dover press box up here too. I like it, the fact that it's all one piece now. That's perfect, because the fact that you got these all in these smaller pieces, and there was a reason, I guess, for doing that, obviously, because you had so many polys in each piece. So no, you would have to break it up. You wouldn't have been able to put it in that original construct in one piece, because that would have been too many polys. So totally understand as far as the method to the madness there when you originally did that. And then not that wasn't wrong to do it that way. It's just it doesn't work for the overall optimization of the track in the game. So there we got there's Racer James coming on in. How we doing? You lost track of time? Yeah, that happens. That happens. Yeah, I've just gone over. You didn't really miss too much. I was just showing off the differences that Torch has applied, I guess, with one particular item here, I guess, as far as the press box to this Dover track build. And you can definitely see the, you know, some positive visionary stuff, you know, as far as the visible aspect, I guess, as far as it's very positive change there. So I just put all the original stuff back in here just to kind of show those comparisons. Now I'm just putting it back. So this is all the stuff he took out, and just to reiterate, all this stuff here that I'm pulling out, he's got this now into just one object instead of the separate objects. On top of that, there's an overall poly reduction, I guess, to what he originally had. So it's still relatively the same size, I think. And let me compare that too. So this is still the same size here. Check this out here. This is the new item. Yeah, so the texture size didn't change so much, which is fine. It was already pretty much optimized there, which just was the model that wasn't. So it had all the 3D parts to it. Hence the reason why you had to break it down into pieces, because there would have been too many polys, inverts, whatever in one object. So based on that wasn't wrong, but it obviously wasn't working for the track as far as to, you know, optimize it some. As we've seen, we've tested it in the sim itself. So we need to put back this brand new PTF and put the new items back in here. And we do need that PTF, as I said. Again, it's just a reiteration and a summary of what we've got to work with here. We need to have this new PTF because we have removed items from this. So because of that removal, best to have a new PTF to be able to reflect what's been removed, right? Because of those items. So regardless of if you're adding items to your track, or removing and or adding, you would need a new PTF. Now, if it's just a direct replacement of one particular object in its texture, then there's no need for a PTF. It just overwrite that one piece. In this case, we had several pieces to that original model, so hence we need a new PTF. Now, I do love the fact that it's cleaning up the overall track folder as far as the unpack into one item now. So again, I'll just kind of open this up in 3D SimEd. Yep, just to show that it loads. That's our new object. And then we have, again, I'm going to go through it and open it this way, as opposed to, you can also double click on the PTF. It just depends on where you want it to basically spawn into the track. It's a matter of preference. If you want to be in the middle of the track, or if you want to be on the center line. So yeah, we want to open up our new PTF. This is going to be based on the new model. So I opened it originally, I guess, just by double clicking on the PTF. Now I'm opening it the opposite way, as far as it'll put me on the center line, basically just ahead of the lead segment, or just before the lead segment of the track. So I gotta give it a second here. There we go. So that's gonna give me right there. So what I should not see at this point is any stutter. No stutter. So that's the comparison I want to make. So I think that's a huge adjustment, as far as lack of a better way to put it. We don't see how when I opened up the original track with that original model for the press box, you see how it stuttered? I got no stutter here. Absolutely none. That tells me that this model is more optimized than that, and that's pretty obvious as far as just the reduction in the verts and polys into it. And you don't lose any dynamic of it either. I guess that's the other thing to take away from this. You don't lose any quality or definition as far as the 3D aspect to it at all. So the fact that there's no more stutter, that's huge. I mean, as far as like that, that's definitely going to be an improvement. And again, there's still some items in here that could probably still address, much the same as that media building. This media building, as we discussed earlier, and this tower. You still got some 3D railing into this thing. That can probably be reduced, as well as the poly inside of this and so on. So that can definitely be reduced a little bit more. And then you've got this stand. That can definitely be reduced. And then these railings on this thing. So there's still some items that can be tackled as far as to get reduced. And again, same thing as that press box. You don't lose any quality of it as far as any dynamic, I guess, or immersion factor by doing so. I'm already seeing a huge improvement in this track. I don't know if you all can see that, I guess, on the stream there. But as far as there's... From where we started, as far as like before you start applying these changes, I guess, to the different models, there was so much stutter in the track, it was kind of hard to handle. But the fact that anywhere I go at this point now, there's hardly any stutter. I mean, just none. I'm staying pretty much, in the high 50s, right around 60 frames, I guess, in the top. I know it's hard to see on the screen as far as the top right of the camera window. It doesn't drop nearly as low as it did from when we first started this stuff. You have those done by next Saturday? Well, there you go. That's something to look forward to. I'll be looking forward to, I guess, being able to apply those new models in here. There's still some other things that can be addressed down the road, too, I guess, as far as the application of these. There was some items here. Some of them are kind of dug into the ground. I'm thinking that's probably not so much the model. It's probably just the way the X sections are, as far as the bumpiness in there. That could probably be smoothed out. I mean, just little things like that. And there was some... You said you had taken care of some of the wall ends. I wanted to check that out, too. You mentioned that last week, and it's like, I figure I'll check that out now. So some of the wall ends that were not present, I guess, before, they seem to be all taken care of. I think that was one of them. I don't remember which all ones they were now, but that's neither here nor there, though. It's just a matter that they have been taken care of, I guess, at this point. That's all that matters. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So did this get fixed here? I know there was a texture mismap here. That looks nice and smooth now. I'm just summarizing as far as like some of the things that pointed out previous streams. Looks like all that's been fixed. Looking really good. No stutter. I love it. It's good stuff. Yep, so that's all been fixed. You would fix some other things too, like this and this PTF to just get fixed. This didn't get moved yet either, I guess, as far as in this new PTF. That's what I had something I discussed before. It's supposed to be like behind the trailer. Again, I'll just leave that up to you, I guess, to make that appropriate adjustment. So this PTF that I've got still doesn't make that adjustment there, as far as on that Goodyear deck there. That was something else I remember from last week anyway. Yeah, you forgot that. Yeah, just keeping a note in that. Making a note of that is all. I mean, it looks good this way, but the fact that you got all this buried, it's kind of defeating the purpose of having it where it's at. So if it does need to be about, you know, relatively behind the trailer, the hauler, and that's where it should go. I'll leave that up to you, I guess, to make that appropriate adjustment, since it is your track build. But yeah, so if you've already got this rebuilt, I'm definitely curious, I guess, to see how that turned out. As far as based on this original construct, I guess, of James. James is there. Yep, I'm just navigating around here just to kind of see. There's still definitely some change. I'm kind of curious now just to get into the track and try this thing out. Now with all of our new, and really all the thing we applied was just that that new press box, right? So let's go here. And what we're going to do, since I'm going to go ahead and pull this PTF out and put that with, these are all our backups here. So once we can confirm all this is good to go, I won't need this stuff anymore. But that's just to keep it on standby, just in case anything doesn't go too right. So with what we got right here, we can make a brand new DAT. And as I've shown before, you can do it one of two ways as far as just to test it in the sim. So the fact that we've only changed the press box as far as like that, but it wasn't a direct replacement. It was, so you've got some items that are removed. So even though you've got the new PTF here, you could still probably get away with doing that. It won't apply those other pieces of that press box, right, that are being removed if you apply this new PTF. So you can take the PTF, the new textures wrong with the new object for the press box, and that'll work just fine. Okay, but in order to get, I guess, a true sense of how the track is going to be optimized or not, make a new DAT file, even though it is just the one item at this point. I think that's probably your best bet, but you can still do that. It's like I said, as far as just taking the PTF and then just the items that you've redone, as far as in this case it'd be the PTF, this press box, and its texture, and put that in your game track folder and then try it that way. So you can do it either way. Reduced over 3,000 polys with just that one model. Yeah, I mean, that's what I showed there previously. So here's the information based on that press box. You started off at almost 3,000 polys by itself. It's down to 122 polys. That's huge. I mean, that shows that there's no stutter. I guess that's I mean, understanding, I guess, as far as you wanted to try to throw everything to include your kitchen sink at it, I guess, to see if it'll stick, as obviously it doesn't. It's proven itself, I guess, to not to be feasible, I guess, to do that. So, but yeah, just that one model, that's for sure. That's a big thing. And then you got this to fall back on to say like where you started from. Now again, I'm going to reiterate, and I think you've already mentioned this, but I'm definitely going to throw it back out there. I wouldn't necessarily throw out that original model as far as like with all these, because this would definitely probably still work in more modern simulations. You know, be like a Wreckfest and things like that. Not saying you would necessarily do that, but I'm saying if you to keep those files, you could definitely still apply that. Either one of them, really, at that point, but definitely some of those newer simulations, racing simulations, will handle this higher poly count much more than Enter 2003 can. So we don't need this anymore. We're good to go on that. I'm going to take the approach of just making a new DAT file. But like I said, you can do it to where PTF, just the items that you've replaced, that you've modified, and put that in your game track folder. That will work that way too. This, as long as you've got your PTF that's outside of the DAT file, named, you know, the same as your track folder and your DAT, that should be good to go. So let's navigate to our game track folder, which is there. Go to tracks. We'll go to our Dover build, which is this one right here. So just as we got here, all we'd have to do, one way we can do it, like I said, just to kind of, I'll go through the motions here. So we can go this way, take this, that, and that. That's all of our new stuff as far as our new PTF. Now, be it the fact that this DAT is still going to include those items that we're removing, this new PTF is going to negate them, right? So it won't read those files. This PTF, those items have been removed. So whatever's in this DAT file, it's going to read this first. So you still need this DAT file to read all the new information that's on this PTF. So the hierarchy, I guess, is the way the simulation reads it. It'll basically look for the DAT and say, oh shit, there's changes because you got this PTF here. So it kind of goes from the DAT to this. There's new information. And any loose files that are out here, it'll read those instead of what's in the DAT file. Okay, so it's kind of an overwrite that way. But just to clean the track folder up, as far as, you know, so you don't have all these loose files in there, make your DAT file. So this is one way you can do it. I'm not going to do it this way, but you can do that. You can try it in the sim and it'll work just fine. This is as long as everything is named properly. As far as your track folder to your PTF and your DAT. As long as those names line up, it'll load that up there and everything that goes that's attached to that PTF. So that's one way to do it. That's not the way we're going to do it. We're going to take it this way and make a new DAT. So go back to here. We're going to plop them back in here. And these are all... I'm not overwriting them or anything. I'm just putting them back in here so I don't have to delete them necessarily. Now what I'm going to do from here is go to my make DAT. I'm going to ensure that my PTF is named properly. And it doesn't hurt to go ahead and copy that just to make sure. I'm pretty certain that it is, but just to ensure, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, and then I'm gonna do my make DAT. Everything that's in this unpacked folder, it's gonna pack that up into a DAT file. So there we go. I'm already seeing also a reduction in the original PTF too. I remember it was like about 90 some megs, so we're down to like 85.9 now. So that's definitely an optimization in the track too. You know, as far as we're seeing that even in the compiled DAT file too as well. Alright, so before I bring this over to my game track folder, I want to back this one up. Whoops. I want to rename that. Oh, must have put it on delete. I gotta be careful. Good thing it does let me know what I'm doing wrong. So I'm just gonna back this up. So even though I'm leaving this backed up DAT file, it's only gonna read what lines up with the track folder name. Right, so the fact that I put the backup on this one, it's not going to read this one at all. So I can still leave that one in there just fine. So yeah, now we want to bring this new DAT file and bring it over to our game track folder. A lot of this is all review, so if you're already aware of how this works, then that's just a refresher course. So now with the way this is all set up, now we can go into the simulation and actually try out our new DAT file with our new object and such. So we're going to do that. We're going to get this set up here so we can go do that. I'm going to close this out. So we're all good to go on this for now. That's our new stuff. Good. And this is our backed up stuff. So once we can confirm that everything's run smooth, it loads up fine in the simulation, we don't need that stuff anymore. I don't even remember now. I got to check. Kind of curious now. I think I have been keeping all that stuff. Let me look here really quick. Give me a second here. I want to look at... I think I've been deleting it. I don't remember now. Just give me a second here. Torch, I got your own folder here on my desktop. Because it is kind of an ongoing project, that's for sure. So, Torch. So the last thing I got was that one. Yeah, some of the stuff I have been keeping, so I'll probably do that still. Again, just for my own benefits too. Yeah, so I do got a lot of backed up stuff here. Cool. Okay, so that's probably what I'll do. I won't probably 100% delete that stuff. I'll probably just okay, that's our backup. Okay, cool. I want to keep that just for now at least anyway. So let me see if I got... Let me switch some things out here. I should have the profiler already set up there, I think. Let's bring that up. There it goes. And we'll turn that one off. We're going to go into the simulation here. And just as we've been doing the last couple of Saturdays here, we've been doing some 20-lap race events here, I guess, on the track build. I'm assuming this is going to go really smooth, so shouldn't be a problem. Let me double check my profiler and make sure I got it set on the right profile. Which I do. So I'll be able to launch it right from there. So I'm just going to bring the wheel over here just for a second. So just give me a moment. I'm going to mute the mic. I'll be back in just a second. Alright, no harm, no foul there. It's a pretty simple procedure there. Trying to work out the kinks and the details, I guess, in the setup here in the studio, I guess, especially for doing this type of stuff. Because a lot of times, for the most part, I usually do have the wheel in front of me because I'm usually playing Wreckfest or Farm Sim or whatever. But sometimes when I'm doing these creative things, I tend to move it out of the way, so I got more desk space. So I got more room, I guess, to be able to get at this keyboard and whatnot. So yeah, we're going to load this up. Load the simulation up here, and I think what I will do is turn the background music off as well, just to kind of remove, at least just for now. Let's turn that off so we can hear all the game sounds. Okay, we'll give that a second to load up there. That's just on my end. I gotta give that a second to load there. That's all that multi-display stuff. All right, here we go. So initially what I want to do is I'm going to go into testing and see if it loads up that way. So if it loads that way, we're probably good to go into single race. Okay, so we're not getting any could not load or anything like that. Good sign. So the track does load in testing mode. And keeping in mind there's still some corrections that need to be made to the state switches, so we don't get the grandstands or anything like that. Those still need to be corrected. That's for sure. So don't mind that, I guess, for now. So it does load in testing. That's definitely a good sign, like I said. Let's go back to single race. That's what we want. Let's load it up this way. We're going to keep it on... whoops, we want to go full... The heck's going on here? We need to... What have I got this set up in? I think I got this set up on the Gen 6. Let me go back here for a second. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I got it on the not the Gen 6, but the Manx 2019. I'm sorry. I still got that in my brain because I've been talking to quite a few. There's still some Enter 2003 leagues out there that still use the Gen 6 as far as by Bullring, as far as the back from 2013. So for some reason I got that still in my brain. But we are using the Splash and Go graphics, Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, the 2019, the last one that they've put out there for the Enter 2003 racing simulation. Very detailed mod. Now, if you really want to test, I guess, the constraints and to benchmark your system, this is one mod to do that. I mean, there's been a lot of optimization that's been applied to this mod, so don't discount that at all. But the fact that it is still relatively a pretty, relatively high medium poly level like that, it does put a lot of strain on the PC as far as the rendering, especially when you're starting from the back, and that's why I like to use this mod. Because it benchmarks a lot of optimization. Well, if we want to checking a lot of optimization in tracks and things like that, as far as even high definition textures that you want to use in your game. So highly recommend using this. So we want to set this up on. I don't know why we need a full field here. So let's do. Oh, I need one that's got a full field of cars here. Let's do all. Come on. And let's get this up to 42 cars. So that'll be 43 including ours. Now, I'm keeping in mind too, right? The way NASCAR runs anymore, they don't run any more than how many cars now? I know they've reduced it. So I'm going to push the limit. The fact that the simulation does allow, I guess, for a total of 43 cars, that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to reduce it the same level. I don't really think that's going to change all that much, especially with a mod like this one there's to reduce it down, I guess, to what NASCAR actually runs. It's probably not going to make that much of a difference, to be honest. So if you want to do it that way, that's totally up to you, obviously. But for me, I'm just going to push it, I guess, to what the game can offer, which is a total of 43 cars. Everything else looks good. We want to run a 20-lap event. Let's continue on that. And so it's initially going to load up here in practice. And that's perfectly fine. So the track is still loading. That's good. I'm just going to go ahead and pan around. I'll pick a car that's going to go around the track here and just check it that way as far as the frames. Let's load it up into this here. So we don't have anybody moving yet. Oh, we got the choppers are moving. Oh, we got some cars here moving. There we go. So we'll just check out some different camera views. Yeah, some of these cameras still need to be adjusted, but let's check out this one here. So I just want to check out the frames based on from this perspective before we jump into the car. Now, what we had noticed before, there's still some drop in frames there coming out of the pit exit there. There's still a lot of detail in the pit exit, in the pits, I should say, in particular. So that's really no problem with the track itself. It's just got a lot. With this mod, like I said, it's such a really detailed mod, right? So you have to take that into consideration too. Yeah, definitely some of these cameras could probably be adjusted. That's probably something we could go over as far as adjusting some of the cameras on this. We could take a look at that. That might not be a bad thing to go over, I guess, in this rendition here, just to kind of get some decent camera angles, I guess, put into the track here. Using the camera jig that we've got available. That is still available over at the Spline Design Studios website. So if you are into the track building for 2003, there's that tool that's available for you to use, I guess, to get your camera set up at all levels. It's stuck and wouldn't move, which I forgot what we were talking about there, Torch. Oh my goodness, look at them all crashing here in practice. It's stuck and wouldn't move. Which one was that as far as the... I forgot what we were talking about. That might be an old comment, I'm sorry. My apologies. Alright, so let's kind of pan around here a little bit more from different cars. Just checking out the frames and see where they're at. They're actually probably not really too bad as far as going around the track. It's fluctuating in between. I've seen it got over 100 there. Dips down to about the low 30s. That's as it gets to different areas. Get as much done as this weekend as I possibly can. Hey, whichever. I wouldn't rush it. If you can get the things done, that's fine. There's definitely other things that we can go over with the track as you're working on things. So definitely don't feel rushed or anything like that. I'm not trying to... I think what you've done so far with the track is definitely some positive improvement, that's for sure. That's actually a pretty cool view right there. This one can probably be adjusted a little bit. Gotta bring it more over to the track. That's in TV2. Spectator doesn't look too bad. Spectator looks pretty solid. Gives you a nice overview of the whole track, I guess, from the main grandstand. I don't think it pans or anything like that. I think it stays right here, if I remember. Yep. Really like this bird's eye view, I guess, of the whole track like that. But there are definitely some adjustments we need to make to the pit cam. That's actually not too bad. This one here definitely needs to be adjusted on the pit entrance. So that's something that can be looked at. That's obviously from the car. We don't want that one. Spectator looks good. TV2. That one looks pretty... I like that one. And this one could probably be adjusted a little bit is all. That's in turn 3. Going into turn 3. Okay. TV1. There's some spots here that could probably be adjusted as well. Just taking some notes. Mental notes. So TV2 and turn 3. Yeah, there's some clipping in here. That's the only thing I would want to fix in the TV1 there as far as it clipping into the track. Kind of notice that a little bit. A little bit of clipping right there. Yes. Probably just need to raise that up a little bit. Nothing too hard. No, but I want to get this done and update the chase version and release it and move on to... Okay. Well, that's all up to you. As far as what pace you want to go at it. Yeah, so just the clipping on both ends of the track there, as far as in the apex of the corner. You can see how it's clipping in the track in TV1. We just need to probably adjust the height of that Maybe move it out a little bit. Yep. Move it out a little bit. Maybe change the zoom. That's something we can consider. So that's mostly in TV1. And then just the one camera in TV2. And then pit entrance would need to be adjusted. So I'm just taking those mental notes there. Otherwise, pretty decent frames in these views there. We're going to jump right into this now. Chase version has the brand new Cup Garage. Okay, so they got a new Cup Garage now. I got to play ignorance, I guess, on the fact that I know nothing of, as far as what Dover's done as of recently. So I have to play. I have to play the ignorance card on that one. I'll have to take your word on that. Let's put it that way. All right, so let's get into this event. We're gonna go right to race. So we're gonna start from the back, and we're starting on the back stretch, just to get that. All those cars having to load, I guess, ahead of us there. That's definitely gonna, really put some strain on how the track loads. So it has to load, render all that graphic, all that detail. So we're still pretty low here. Now, that's not all entirely just the track. There's a factor of the the detail of the mod itself, right? Yeah. I was really hoping to see, I guess, it more in the low 30s. Honestly, I keep shifting around. There we go. Yeah, it's a nice looking garage. Paved where the grass is also safer inside. Huh? Again, I'll have to take your word on that. They make so many adjustments to tracks anymore. It's kind of crazy. No, the whole thing that they've done with Auto Club, I think we were talking about that a little bit last week. That's just insane to me. As far as all the changes they're making to Auto Club, as far as to basically just make it like a banked Martinsville. Yeah, so we're still like, we're still like in the low 20s here, starting way from the back here. So that's not entirely all the track. There is some factor, I guess, as far as the the car mod itself. Oh my god, pushed up so bad. I was just trying to get to the back there, I guess, a little bit, but I don't want to go quite that far back. Yeah, so the further I get back here, I was hoping to see it get into the lower 30s, I guess, consistently here. Not that this is terrible, but it just goes to show you how much improvements there can still be applied to the track with some of the other track library around the track anyway. So we're still solid. To this point, I'm going to see if I can just run the entire event, I guess, without it crashing the desktop. If we can get to that point, then we're definitely still in good shape. So we're running, I don't know, that may be a little bit hard to see. We're still like in the high 20s. Haven't really hit the 30 frames, even way back here. And that's still relatively, we only changed that one object since we tested this last week, right? Just that press box. That's only one item. There's still plenty of other items that can still be addressed. Just those little things like that, as far as like once those get adjusted, there's probably going to make a big difference overall. So I'm just hanging around in the back here just to see where the frames kind of stick around. So as I get closer, the frames do go down. You get into... Oh, we got a wreck. Slow it up, slow it up, slow it up. Oh. Sucks to be him. Just glad it ain't me. This is the 50th anniversary. That's why I did this. Yeah, and that's what I got from it. So the fact that that's just a recreation, the fact that this is a 50th anniversary, and that's you've kind of depicted it in such a fashion. Oh, there's Space Truck. Got the Spline Designs. Yep, we got to pass the pace car. Got the Spline Design Studio semi out on the track there, pacing the field. We don't need a pit. The one thing I do wish that the pace car did have is that collidable aspect that they had back prior to Inter 2003. Anyway, oh my God, what's going on here? What the heck's going on there? Where's this? I gotta stay behind the 24. Those guys are wrecking even under caution. That's crazy. Get with the program here, guys. I gotta stay behind the 24. It said. I'm still running in the back, which is which is fair. There's got some cars that are pitting, so I'll probably gain some spots. Where can I buy mine? As far as the pace truck anyway. That's kind of a Spline Design Studios exclusive, really. That was something I did as a commission for a league, you know, a game server owner. He wanted that something exclusive, I guess, for us. That was back in 17? Yeah, so about 3 years ago. I just so happen to have it in this mod. It can be applied to pretty much all the mods that you can apply it as a replacement. You can only have the one type of pace car in there. It's only got the one paint scheme on it, so it's not like a random. They're all the same texture. Bro, we need it. Well, we'll have to see what we can do about that. And at 24, he needs to pit and fix his hood there. I think that's this was prior to, this is in 19, so this has still got Chase in 24, I believe. Or is that Alex? No, Alex is in the 88. So who's driving the 24 now? Byron's in the 88, right? I forget who's in the 24 now. I can't read that. What does that say? What does that say? That is... Oh, it's showing as Gordon in there. Okay, so this is obviously a fictional set here. Yeah, love the way they did that as far as that Lexar shark fin, I guess, on that left side of the rear window. Pretty cool. I think he's even got the Lexar on the rear spoiler too. As far as on the top edge there, it's kind of hard to see there. We can see that Lexan there right on the top fin in there of the... Oh, we're going green. Oh my god. He's got some damage to this bad boy. Yeah, Bowman. Yeah, so Bowman's driving the 24 and Byron is in the 88. I forget how it goes now. I'm so confused, I guess, with the who's driving what in different teams anymore. I'm in 37th. Holy crap. Got a lot of cars wrecked behind me though. Yeah, so we're still running low 20s, mid to upper 20s, I guess, in the pack here. Guess he's faster than me. I'll let him go. Oh, good. Got to run on him. Track run's relatively great. So the fact that we, loading in all these cautions and stuff like that, that's more animations and stuff that have to load. So the fact that we're not crashing to desktop there is definitely a good sign. Still. We're already halfway done. 10 to go. We are still running 38th, so we got some cars behind us yet. I think some of them might have dropped out. They might have bowed out. I think they just parked it. I think they're just too broken. So basically, we're still running last. But I'm really just testing out, I guess, the frame rates. So that's what I'm saying. We're kind of picking up some frames a little bit. We got into the low 30s there. William Byron drives the 24. Gotcha. Now the fact that the 24 in here is still Gordon, that's obviously shows this is the Manx 19, so it's obviously fictional. It's a fictional car set. Pretty cool looking scheme though. It's got that patriotic 24 Pepsi. So I got Kozlowski in the 2. I can't really see the scheme here. He's got a lot of damage. It's a Miller Lite white scheme. Looks like it's an alternate scheme there. Looks pretty neat, even though it's pretty banged up. Sorry there, Brad. It's closing in on Kyle Busch here. Gonna dig here a little again. Get a little bit deeper in the field here so we can see where the frames are at. So we're in the high 20s, low 30s. Kind of smoothed out here a little bit. It's a little bit choppy, but not too terrible.
5 to go.
5 to go.
3, 2, 2, 2. Outside.
I don't want to get too low. I want to get out of that groove.
Clear.
We know what happens when then we get too far down. And that apron does chew you up and spit you out.
3, 6, 8.
Got a little bit of a run on at the end of the field here. Yes, we're getting down to the low 20s again.
23,
As we,
4.
it's going to render in all these cars in the field, especially the wrecked ones. All these damaged models. Still running pretty solid though. It's not dipping so low that it's ridiculously
Clear.
unbearable.
1 inside.
Especially on the exit here. When we get on the front stretch here, as far as the pit road, that's where it really tends to.
1, 9. Clear. Clear low.
Not so much here on the back stretch. And we're on the last lap. Now, keeping in mind, a lot of it has to do with the mod itself. Now, I've shown last week as far as running the OG cut mod, as far as the original Pappy mod, it runs a lot. I wouldn't say it like butter, but it's definitely a lot higher frame rates. So that just to kind of give you some comparison, at least anyway.
4.
And we're on the checker flag. I just kind of pushed there a little bit on exit 2. Running 37th still. Just had Kyle Busch on it, so we're taking the checker. Really fun track to race on. And we're done. So that is what the new press box model applied to the track.
That's all, man. We'll figure it out. Appreciate everybody working hard. Keep working. You've done a good job. Appreciate you working that hard there at the end.
Whoa. Everybody coming into the pits. Ease it up. Sure.
35. There you go, man. Number 3,000, second gear.
So we're just going to come through the pits here and see what it. So definitely when you come in through the pits here, it does drop well below 20. And there's probably some things in texture-wise, whatever, can still be adjusted on that. That's, again, just coinciding, I guess, with the just the beefiness of the mod itself. So, yep, everybody trying to get the heck out of this track as far as getting down in the pits there. That only seems to be the only drop in there, and I think with those two items that I've mentioned, as far as like that one stand, which is generally in that area, and then that tower, as far as that's behind the pit, I think if that got reduced, as far as that would probably optimize the frame rates in that area quite a bit. So I think what we'll do at this point, as I was pointing out there, is we'll go ahead and at least go ahead and try and adjust some of these cameras. I think that would so we got some better views on here. So let's go. Done. We ended up winning it anyway. Eric Armarola. Sure. Okay. If you say so. All right. So yeah, we got a chance to be able. No, I didn't want to do that. Crap. I clicked the wrong button. Also the media building, I'm gonna check. Yeah, that's probably another one too. Now I'm not saying that that's probably causing it, but it could probably be reduced a little bit. Yeah. So that's the only takeaway from that. I don't. The way it's designed right there, I'm not saying that's the number one culprit, but there's plenty of other objects that are in that same area of the track that are causing that frame rate drop, and that's kind of evident. So, all right, so we'll close that. So yeah, what I want to do now, I'm gonna move this wheel out of the way for a moment because we're gonna get into editing some of these cameras. So I have shown this before as far as like how that works, but I think I gotta get my playlist going here again. There we go. So yeah, camera editing. It's pretty cool. So the camera jigs that we have at the Spline Design Studios website, that's still 100% available for free. You can also get it in the Rock Nation Discord, !social. So if you're not a part of the Rock Nation Discord, feel free to go check it out in there too. So it's available in both spots under the Enter 2003 Tools section. Let's see, you have reduced in the upper half of this and the stairs as far as the media building. Okay. Yeah, so even with that itself, it probably wouldn't optimize, I guess, as far as the track there. So we're definitely seeing, I guess, what I'm moving forward, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make there, is like what I would expect to see with these new models, like the media building, that tower that's in the center of the pit road, behind pit road, and then that one stand that's closer to the medical building. You get a lot of those redone. I think that's going to increase the frame rates in that area, because there's definitely probably a lot of polys in those models, so, and it can probably be reduced a little bit. So let me move the wheel out of the way for a second. I'm going to mute the mic. I'll be right back. Alrighty then. Simple as that. Now, what we want to do for doing this, in fact, what I will do, let's go into this. I'm going to open up a new window here and kind of show everybody, I guess, as far as what we've got at the Spline Design Studios website. Alright, so let's move this over to a new tab here. I'm going to do a little bit of shameless promotion here, to say the least here. So, you can get to this either way, as far as, like, you can always go to just our main categories here, but for Enter 2003 we should have a utility section, like so, and then it has this camera jig, and there's also a video that kind of shows how to use it, right? So you can definitely, if you want to, feel free, I guess, to go ahead and get this. You do have to be registered to the website to be able to get it. That's just so that we can get a more of a feel as far as, like, you know, how many people are getting it, and if it's useful and all that good stuff. So just don't be afraid, I guess, to be able to register for the site. That option is still totally working on the website. So again, don't be afraid, I guess, as far as have to register. You don't need to put your real name or anything like that. None of that information is used. It's just more or less a means for us to understand as far as, like, how the site is being used. So as opposed to just people dropping by and just grabbing files, we have no way to be able to gauge without some type of registration, I guess, to the website to understand as far as, like, what files people are finding more useful, I guess, than others. So that's the only reason why that's available that way. But there is this, see if it'll load up in here. Oh, it does. So there is a video here that I've done, looks like about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, that shows how to use this this tool. This is based on a stream that I did on Twitch on January 23rd of 19. So I got that posted over at the Rock Nation YouTube. You can feel free to check that out at your leisure. Did I put that in a new tab? Okay, I guess I don't have that open up in a new tab. Alright, so keep that in mind. So if you want to be able to get the file, make sure you get the file first before you go there. But that's where that exists there. It's also in the Rock Nation Discord under the Enter 2003 category tools section. So that's in a couple different spots, at least anyway. So a little bit of shameless promotion, I guess, for Spline Design Studios, as far as that goes. So with all that being said, I'm going to my tools here. We've been able to check everything that we got here. So as this stands right now, I don't need to keep this DAT file. We're good to go on that. Just want to clean up this here a little bit. So these files here, I'll keep these for later. I don't need them right now, though. Let's see here. The Dover press box. So we got all these new stuff already applied, so we're good to go there. We're going to keep this open because we're going to be doing some editing in our game track directory for the cameras. That's our game track directory and our unpack, our track edit folder. Cool. Let's close that. Okay, now what I need to do is get to, let me open up another window here, and I want to get to our pit jig here, which I already have available here. Should be in my track edit folder here. Let's check it here. Do I have it open? Yes, I do. So this is the root of my track edit folder. I got all the tracks that I've ever worked on as far as in this folder. It's totally separate from the game directory. I do have the zip here for the camera jig. Here is the actual camera jig, which again you can get at the Spline Design Studios website. It's a very useful tool. You can get a lot of information by putting this down as an object in your track, and then you can get your coordinates for your camera positions. That's basically how it goes. That video kind of shows a lot in there. So I'm going to be a little bit rusty on this a little bit, so I haven't used this in a while. But it's pretty self-explanatory as far as how you can get the center point for the camera based on that position. You can get your height, your X, Y, and Z and stuff for like your pit cam, and your D-long, D-lat based on its position, because it's based on an object that's in your track, right? So what we can do, that's just to show you what the object looks like, at least anyway. We're going to get this into our Dover track, so we can apply it to it, and see what we got going here. And then that's going to be part of the setup here, is to get that into the track, but then we'll need to open the actual cam file, and I have a couple of different means, I guess, to be able to do that. So I'm going to have this in the track folder. Okay. So we'll leave that there for now. And then what I want to do from here is get the directory for... I should have set it on my desktop here. I'm going to be a little bit rusty on this, so bear with me. I need to open this folder. So this is also something that I don't think we have available at this Spline Design Studio website, but it is on the Rock Nation Discord as far as under the Inner 2003 tools. So I'll have to work on that. But this is a cam edit, as you can directly open up cam files for Inner 2003 tracks. Any cam file, really, as far as in Inner 2003. Let me bring this back over here. So what you do is, and you can load this right from this folder. It doesn't have to be in the track folder itself or whatever. So all we're going to do is open up the track cam file, basically right from the game track directory. I'm going to make a backup of this one though first. Always suggest that. Okay, so I'm going to rename this one here, so that way we can always revert back to this one here. I'm going to do it this way though. I never trust as far as just putting that copy on the end of it. I always like to put the backup in front of it. That's just, whoops. Do I already have a backup in here? Wait a minute. Oh crap. I must have screwed up the extension on it. Hold on a second. But anyway, in my experience, having it just as that copy on the tail end of it there, crap. Nope, I don't want to do that. It doesn't always work that way. So I always like to put the backup or whatever in front of it, or name it something in front of the name of the file, just so that I know for sure that it's not going to read it. So I'm going to go like this. There we go, that's better. So I must have took out the extension there, I guess, for the .cam. That's why it was yelling at me initially. So I'll have this to revert to. If I screw something up in here, I can always revert back to that. I never trust as far as like just making a copy of it anyway. Like I said, that's... in my experience, it's just sometimes it'll still read that file, even though it's totally different from what it should be named. I guess that's ooh, almost got the slots there. Missed it by 1 kappa. Alright, so with that copied there, we'll be able to open this cam file based on here. And I just have this on my desktop as far as to be able to load this here. This one here works more with the car cameras, so we don't need to worry about this one. We only want to play with this one here. And we want to navigate to... I've been doing a lot... The last work I did on was for the North Wilkes build. And that's... I did that right from the track edit folder, obviously. So I need to repoint this to game track directory. So let's go like this. And get to our Dover track build. Spread this out here a little bit. Just got to navigate to that Dover track build. Where's my D's at? There we go. So now it shows the backup in this one here. I want to edit this one. So that'll load up the cam file. It puts this temp cam. That's important because it'll... Anything you're doing in here, don't mess with this folder. right? This is basically what the program needs to be able to make the changes until you save it. Once you save it, that temp file will go away. Okay, so don't do anything with this temp file as you're using the program. But yeah, from here you can get all the positions of the cam. So I took some mental notes. There's so cam 2 distance from start to finish line. This is all in, that's your D long. This is in meters. So 550 meters from the start finish line. That would be probably turn 1 and 2, around the apex of that. So this is one we would probably want to adjust as far as the elevation of it, to bring it up so it doesn't clip into the track, for example. And we may want to move it from the center line. Now that's just to get a rough idea as far as how that's positioned there. In TV2, it's probably going to be right around this range. We'll open the track up and we'll actually be able to get more accurate numbers, I guess, for this. But this would be about where that, until we go to check it in Sandbox, this is probably about where that position is for the, this one's only a 2.4, so maybe that's not it, but we'll look at that anyway. It'll make more sense once I open up the track. Let's go like that. So let's do tracks. No, not that one. That's our game track directory. So we want to open up a track this way. And this is still all the new stuff. So you kind of keep everybody up to par. So we're loading up the track. Give that a second. And I've definitely shown this process before, I guess, as far as making your own custom cameras before. So there's plenty of other information in previous streams, VODs, and stuff like that. But so for most of us, this might be a refresher, but I figure it's something pretty solid to go into anyway. All right, so and this is how we want it. I'm going to stay right here in the center. Now to get on TV1, we'll use this one here. We'll look and see 500 meters, and the elevation is 2.8. So there's only 4 cams in here. So more than likely, this is going to be at 240. So that's going to be in turn 1. And the way we get this number from the start distance from the start finish line is basically just point your mouse in geometry view. That's usually the best view. Is to point your mouse. So here's the start finish line. So from that distance here, and we're going by. It might be hard to see that in the bottom right hand corner here. It'll give you that information. Okay. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit so you can see that information. I wish I could. I still haven't figured out a way, I guess, to zoom this information in a little bit better, but I'll just kind of read it off. So that 240 right there is about 175. So we're at 240 for this first camera. So it's going to be right about in front of this press box. That's where that first camera is. That's where this value comes from. So at 240 meters from the start finish line. It's at an elevation of 16, so it's 16 meters up in the air, and it's minus 15.5 from the center line. Now the center line is right here, so it's basically going to be 15.5. That's what the DLAT value is going to be. So it's going to be roughly in this position at minus 15. So yeah, it's basically right around in front of this this first camera for TV1 is right about here. Now the way we can with the camera jig, we can actually put that camera in that position based on what we have in this information here. We can put that in position. We can get a perspective, I guess, as far as what the camera is actually looking at. All right, so let's bring in the camera itself. We got to go to object placement because it is an object. So now that we got a rough idea of where that camera is, and you can do this either way. If you're starting fresh with brand new cameras and don't have any information in your cam, you can set the object as far as the camera jig where you want it to be and apply that information to the cam based on the cam edit, right? Should be on top of the press box somewhere. Yeah, we're going to check that. That's exactly what we're going to I'm assuming that's probably where it's going to end up. But yeah, from this point here, having a visual, as far as a camera to actually put down there to see what that camera file that so instead of just throwing numbers at the camera file, having something physical to be able to put in place to see what the camera is necessarily going to look at is the whole reason, I guess, for creating this camera jig. So actually I went too far down. So we got to get into the C's here. So our camera jig is right here. So I'm going to load that up in here. Now, I think I can see it right there. Nope, so I'm not able to click on it, so I'm going to go to my track properties here and get it that way. Should have it in the C's. We're going to have a lot of shared stuff. So I'm going to scroll through this until we get to that camera jig. Should be in alphabetical order, if I'm lucky. And casino. Okay, I might put it towards the end. Let me see here. It's in here somewhere. It did apply to there, but I wasn't able to click on it. So it's gonna find it through my. So we got all the individual trucks here, the Goodyear trucks. The hell is that cam file at? So it's not just after the shared stuff, unfortunately. For the most part, it'll alphabetize these, but as you add new items here and resave it, it won't necessarily, sort it out initially. So sometimes you might find it useful, I guess, to go ahead and save the track, reload it, and then chances are it'll put, it'll more or less prioritize. It doesn't always do that. It won't always do that, but sometimes it will. Where's that daggone camera jig at? So it's a matter of finding it is all. Got a lot of people. So even at this point, we can tell we got a lot of track library into this thing. Got some fir trees for decoration. Okay, where the hell is my camera jig? So I went through all that list there. Where did I got lost it. Should have been right there, but I guess it's not. That's all. It's always going to prioritize shared items too. That's probably another fair mention. So if you do have shared items in there, it'll usually always prioritize it to the top of the list here. I don't know why I can't find my camera jig though. It's usually not that difficult to find. Should be in the C's and I'm not seeing it. Alright, let me see if I can find it in the list. Can I see the box? There it is right there, I believe. Double check that. Yep, so it is right there. So it didn't let me click it. A lot of times it won't let you, so that would be your alternative as far as to go through the list right there, right? They actually have a cameraman on the top of the breast box. Well, if we know that information, we can actually apply that physically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go by this information that I got here. So it's at 16 meters high. All right. So we're going to put this here. We're going to put it on fixed as far as the camera jig. And put that Z at 16 meters. Everything in here is in meters. So we put that up at 16 meters. That's what that camera file is saying. And then it's going to be... Now, this is all in X, Y, and Z. So the fact that you can't plug in the D long and D lat much the same way. You want to use your X and Y coordinates as far as in the bottom right here. So even though you're using D long, D lat as far as to apply it in here, as far as for the object, you're going to apply X and Y. In this case, already I got the Z applied. So we're going to need in this mode here, we want to put... here, let me switch back to object or geometry here really quick. So we're roughly right here. So the way there's the bottom line is there's no way to be able to convert to the D long D lat into an X and Y, for example. So you more or less have to get the X and Y based on what. So if you want to have it at a particular D long, in this case at 240, I would have to pan it in object or geometry view here. 40 minus 50, so it's basically at this corner. That's what it's looking like. So that's going to end up being a X and Y. Minus 219 on the X and 158 on the Y. So let's plug that in there. So we'll do... And I know that information is hard to see down there, but in this position here, based on that 240, as far as on, again, going by this information here, 240 here, and it's minus 15 from the center line. If I go and put the mouse pointer at that position, minus 229, 158. as far as X and Y respectively. So I want to plug that in to the object view here. So go back to that, click on this. So I want to put this at a minus 228 on the X, so we're pretty close. And then, whoops, too many twos. And then a 150, I think it was about a 152. So we're right about there. Right about there, I guess, as far as that goes. So we're 16 up, 152 on the X. And now the rotation won't really matter, because especially if you've got a panning camera, as far as that, turns to zoom and all that stuff, that position isn't going to matter. But what I'll go ahead and do just for this purpose here, we can kind of get an idea. We'll just put it like that. This degrees here isn't going to matter, especially if it's not a fixed camera. So if it's a camera that pans like this one does, that's not going to matter as far as this degrees here. But that's basically roughly where that camera's sitting. That's roughly where it's sitting. So we have something visual to actually see where that camera's positioned. So that's 16 meters up. So it's basically on this level here. Now if we wanted to put it on top of this press box here, we would need to go higher. But that basically, this camera is saying this is where it's at right now. It's at 16 meters high, this elevation here. So if we want to go higher with that, which we'll go ahead and do that. Why not? That's already here. Let's raise this object up, let's say to 25. See where that puts us. That's going to put us more at the top of the roof here, and we can probably even move it in. That's probably not a bad idea just to leave it right there. So that way we won't have to worry about it clipping into the railing here, for example. But we can also probably move it back on the X and or Y. So we can freely move it this way. And we can definitely use these translates here. So now we've got something visual to look at, right? So as we pan back to the geometry view, now that we got this into position here, we can go back to geometry view. Now we've got something to actually point to get the D-long, for example. Okay, so let me zoom in on this. That's what this little pinpoint here. So we put our mouse on that. So we're basically at 250 meters from the start-finish line. We're at 249.86. So we can plug this into this camera here. We can put this at 250. That's the distance from the start-finish line going in the direction of the track. We're going to be now at 25 meters high. And again, we're getting all this information directly from between the object properties as well as the geometry view, right? We're plugging this all in. So 25 meters high, distance from start-finish, center line, I should say. We're now at, we're getting this all still in geometry view. That would be the D-lat now is at minus 19.62. So we can easily probably go minus 20 just to round it off. So to put this at minus 20, that's going to put this object, that camera in that position now. Roughly in that position, so it'll read it a little bit differently. So, and then from here we can also get an idea of, if we go in front of this thing here, we'll get a sense of what is this camera going to be looking at as far as the perspective there. So we have, again, just having something visual, I guess, as far as a camera. We never had that, and this is something I felt was very useful, I guess, to be able to have a camera. Now you can save this as a new PTF once you get all your camera positions in there, and then if you save that as a separate PTF, you can go back to that PTF and say, like, okay, I need to move this one up or in or out or whatever. You can go to that particular camera based on your positions of your cameras in here. So like if this one here has got more than one camera, so if this one's at 550 from the start finish line, 2.8 up, that should be in the apex. We're going to check this out in Sandbox. So I'm going to leave that one there for now, and we'll save it as a new PTF so we can always come back and adjust that. Just practicing what I preach there. So at 550, that should be the apex of this corner of this turn. So at 550, we're about, it's a little bit further than I thought. It's over here. So we're about right in here, right in front of this billboard. at 2.8 up. So that's kind of clipping into the track. That was one thing. So again, we can go into object view and apply camera right there. So you can put these in here as multiplicity, I guess is the point I'm trying to show there. You can put more of these down, so we got it right there. So it's at 2.8 for this camera, which is not very high. I think that's probably another reason why it's clipping into the track. We're going to put this on the fixed, put it at 2.8. So we definitely probably want to raise that. We are at, we switch this back to, yeah, it's definitely too low. That's definitely below the track. So let's raise this up until we see it. Let's see. Let's put it at, let's say maybe a 6. Still don't see it. 10. There, now we can see it. Let's try a 9. 9, 8, 7. Yeah, so about probably an 8. So now we can go to that position over here. It's going to be in front of this one billboard here. Right there it is. So the fact that it was definitely below the track, as far as that 2.8 meters high, that's probably why it was clipping. So we definitely want to get that raised up, probably even higher than this here. Okay, so let's raise this up to, let's try 10. 10 looks pretty good. Now again, we can kind of rotate. Now the rotation's not going to matter, right? The way the panning cameras work as far as in the game, it's going to always point at whatever car you're focused on. So we're only putting this in here just to get a better perspective, I guess, as far as what this camera would potentially look at. So the degrees aren't going to matter. It's going to be the X, Y, which will translate to D-long, D-lat, as well as your height. That's really the only thing we're focusing on is those 3 values. Alright, so if we put the camera there at that height, let's switch back over to geometry view and see where we're at and get the D-long as far as the distance from the start finish line. And we're going in the direction of the track. That's how we get that value. So let's go to geometry. Now we've got something to actually physically point onto, and it's fixed in here, so it's not going to move on you. So you can always point back onto it to get the value if you miss it, right? So that's roughly 550. It's like 549.84, so we're pretty close. So we're at minus 275 on the X there, so we can set that. Second here. Okay. And to make sure. So we're at minus 275 on the X. I'm just taking a note of that. And how far from the center line were we? That's what I wanted to get. So from the center line, we are minus 3.5 meters. That's not a whole lot. So we're actually more closer to... We were more this way. So we probably want to put it right here. We probably don't want to be... So actually, we're only minus 3. So we're basically on the track surface here like this. I think we're going to try it right here at that height. We'll see what that looks like. And we can always adjust it. We'll keep this here, and we can always adjust it for sure. So we'll go on the Y. Basically a minus 17.5. Okay. So we need the D-long and D-lat, I guess, for that. That's what we need. So we need it at a D-long. D-long center. So distance from the center line, we want a minus 17.5. So we're going to change that. Minus 17.5. And we want to make it, what did we go with? 8 on the height. Double check that again. I'll have to get that from the object view. So you will find yourself having to go back and forth between object view and geometry view, depending on which value you need. That's the only downside to it, I suppose. So on this one here, we want to go 10 on the Z. So that's elevation. We're going to set this to 10 meters. Okay. We're going to keep it at the 550. So we're only really adjusting Now, the other thing to take in consideration is this takeover distance. I'm not really going to mess with that. We only got 4 cameras in this here. Basically, what this means is how soon this camera takes over from the previous. So the fact that this one will take over as far as the transition from one camera to the next, that's what that value does. I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm going to leave those where they're at because we only got the 4 cameras. If you've got several cameras to where you want them to take over, I guess, like lickety split, as far as like closer, I guess, to what, this is based on the camera position, right? So 170 meters from this camera position is when that'll take over from the previous. That's what that value means. That's really all I'll say about that for now. I'm not going to touch them on this one here, for at least for now. Okay, so that camera is pretty much set. We're going to leave that one alone. Now, the next camera, I don't think there was any other cameras other than the one on that end of the track. Much the same position if we want to adjust that one there. So that's going to be, let's move to 4. This one's at 1360. Okay, so we're going to go back into our track, into geometry view to get that value. Just pan out here a little bit. Okay, so if we go to 1360, was it? Yeah, 1360 distance from the start finish line. That's going to be, pan around here. Okay, right about in this area. Now, another thing you can do to kind of help your processor so you're not losing your position here, use your linear guide. So let's bring up the linear guide. So that's going to spawn in the center of the track here. I'm going to stretch this out. This will give you just a temporary placement of that. So we're at 1360 for this here. So this is another way, I guess, to give you a point of perspective here. So it doesn't matter which point you use as far as to set it. You don't really need to have it that big. So 1360. So you can see the white numbers, I guess, a little bit better than you can the red in most cases if you use the linear guide. So 1360 is right about there. Now, as far as center from center line, this particular camera is at minus 4.5, which is, I think, is a little too close. We want to put it outside the track instead of, so 4.5 meters is probably only going to be like right there. So it's like right in the middle of the track. So we're going to put it on the outside of the track, just like the other end. So we're going to put it here. So I'm using that camera position here. I want to put it roughly in that spot. Okay. So previously we were in the middle of the track and it was only at, what was the elevation on that? Same thing. 2.8. So it's pretty low. That's probably why it was clipping. So we want to definitely adjust that. So let's go into object view and put a camera jig in that spot. So let's scroll this down into camera jig. There we go. And probably not going to be able to see it. Is it there? Yes, there it is. Cool. So we're going to put that roughly right there. And we're going to need to raise it for sure. So let's raise this up, put it to fixed. So right, currently it's at 2.8, which was in the middle of the track. We put that other one at 10. So let's see where we're at position wise here. Let's go to camera view here and see where we're at here. So we should be over on this end of the track. We can already see that, the bounding box right there. Just kind of navigate over to it. I think I did slow the camera down a little bit. That's okay. Now, here's our height that we'll be at. And again, we can adjust the degrees here, which isn't going to matter because this is going to be a panning camera. So we're just kind of getting a perspective as far as what that camera will potentially look at. Right? Now, field of view, that's probably another thing to mention there. The fact that the field of view on these cameras, that's your zoom, basically. It's going to depend on what you've got the field of view set on for your own personal view. So if you got the perspective, I guess, set to a certain perspective, that's where these zooms will come into play as far as how much it'll actually look at from the sides of the camera, as far as the blind spots. So these zooms here, I didn't see any problem with that. We didn't have any problem with that, so I'm going to leave that right where they're at. But basically, you don't usually want to go, unless it's really far away, if the camera's really far away, you know, as far as from the actual track, like a spectator view, for example. You don't usually want to go much over like a 0.2 or 3, because that's going to zoom in quite a bit. It's got a huge magnification, especially when it's this close to the track like this one will be. So that's just something you can take in consideration there. Very minimal increments, I guess, as far as the zoom in is going to make a big difference when it comes to cameras that are this close to the track as opposed to further away. Yeah, so we're going to keep it at this height, that position. So now we need to get some values here. So we've used a linear guide, I guess, to get it roughly into position here. So we can make some tweaks on this. So if we want it a really specific position, you know, to put it on that center, that linear guide anyway, we can do that. So we got this visual of a camera jig, I guess, to be able to use to accomplish that. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go back to geometry view. Now we got this physical item to go by. Now the D-long is going to be at, still going to stay at 1360, so we'll leave that one alone. The elevation is now going to be at 10, as we got from the object placement view. And then our distance from center line, which is basically the D-lat, is now going to be at, if we point in that little dot, that's going to be at minus 13.25. So set this to a minus 13.25. Okay, and then we're going to leave that takeover just as it is. So the only ones to be adjusted is the elevation and how far it is from the center line, as far as on the Y in this case. So that'll hopefully eliminate all the clipping there. We'll see that if the fence might be a factor here. We'll have to see. We'll test it out in the sim there and see how that works there. So there's that position. So that's for TV camera 1. That's pretty much the only adjustments I need to make there. The only one I noticed in TV 2, as I make the mental note, was by the second bridge, which is over here. So it would have been roughly in this position. Okay, so we're looking for a camera that's about at around 1100, I want to say about. So if we go into our cam TV2, we're looking for one that's about 1100. See if we got one that's in that range. 1095. So this is probably that camera. So this camera here, and I think it is a fixed camera. It is. So that's my other indicator. The fact that it's a fixed camera, it doesn't move. It just stays in that spot. We want to move that closer over to the track, because it was kind of like more out this way. So right now it's showing it's minus 80. Man, it's way out there. Minus 80 from the start-finish line, so it's way out here. So we want to get that definitely closer to the track. So that's probably the only thing we will have to adjust, is that distance from the center line. But just to kind of use, you know, what I've already been showing here, I'm going to take the linear guide. Now that that one's in position, I'm going to move this into this position that it's showing me in the cam edit, here at least anyway. So we're 80 meters out from the center line. That means, yeah, that's way out here. Torch got a win on there. There you go. Got all the 3 bots too. Nice. So yeah, with that camera is basically sitting right out here. So let's put this at 1095. I'm just putting this in position is all I'm doing. So I can use this. I'm using the white numbers on the linear guide. So we're basically right about here. That's where that camera sits, outside the track. That's why it's like, that's what we see in the game too, as far as it's kind of like way out here. So we want to move this in. So this is another use for the linear guide. So I've got it on this end on the center line, basically. So we want to bring it in just on the center line. I think it will be good enough. So instead of way out here, we're going to move it closer. So we'll go, let's put it at a minus 23. And I'm using just that value that's on the end of that linear guide. So instead of a minus 80 on this here, we'll put it at a minus 23. That'll put it closer to the track. That's all we need to adjust there. And we'll test that out and see. And so it's already at an elevation of 25. So the elevation and all that, as far as the zoom and all that stuff, we're just going to leave that alone. As far as all that was concerned, that was good. We just want to bring it closer to the track as well. So what that should do, with that position there, it should line up more with the track instead of being way out where it was. We might have to turn it a little bit as far as the fixed position. We'll have to see if that's necessary. So we'll have to adjust the direction here possibly. And that's a very minimal adjustment too. So if we only want to move it just a smidge, you want to use very small increments, I guess, on that. But we'll leave it right where it is for now, just to see what that gives us. So that's that camera that I took a mental note to change. The pit entrance is the other one. So that is going to be our pit lane 2, as far as our pit entrance there. And that's also going to be, mostly you only need on that one as far as your X, Y, and your Z. That's all you need for that. So because it's a fixed camera in itself. Pit camera is its own beast. So it doesn't have the same parameters of all your other cameras. So pit cam is only X, Y, and Z, just like an object. So what we can do, say we want our pit cam to be, we're going to use our linear guide to place our camera jig object. Let's say we want our, now we already knew, we took observation as far as like what direction that was facing. So the camera, that pit cam 2 was like facing like this direction roughly. So it was already pointing down this way. So if we want to just move it, say, you know, to the outside of this wall, we can just leave that direction alone. So let's put the pit cam like right here. Gotta close this up a little bit. So we want to put the pit cam like right about there, let's say, so we can get that last pit stall, for example. Maybe even further back here as far as like where the cars are coming in. Oops, let's line this up like so. So let's put our pit jig right there. So let's go into object view. Okay, and then we'll put a pit camera jig right there. Let's go into our list. So I didn't put a jig in the other spot there because that's all we wanted to adjust is just the center line. We could have easily put a camera jig in that spot 2 and entrance of 3 as far as looking at that one bridge. Be it the fact that we only adjusted that one value, I guess, as far as the, you know, the Y, as far as the distance from the center line, I didn't really put one there. But you could if you wanted to. Where's my camera jig at? It's up here, that's why. Gotta get in the right area. Camera jig. Come on, where'd you go? There it is. Alright, so there's that. So that is at a height of, yeah, for this object here I'm going to put it on fixed so we can adjust that. So that's 0. Okay, so that's relatively pretty flat. Let's go navigate to that. Should be right in front of this one here. There it is. So we definitely want to bring it up. Yeah, we don't want to be staring into the wall, right? So this direction that we got here, now this, you can use, if you understand radians, you can kind of get on this camera, at least anyway, if you understand, the game uses radians and not degrees when it comes to that. So you can convert this object here, I guess, into radians as far as the degrees to get proper. So I'm going to kind of show this here. Hopefully this will make some sense. So the fact that we knew previously, by looking at it in the sim, the camera was faced, let me turn this here, it was faced in this direction. So if we take these degrees, which is at 135, I'm going to bring up another window here. I'll just do it right here. So let's bring up degrees to radians. That would be what you need to use radians, not degrees, as far as that value in the cam edit anyway. So degrees to radians. And radians is really a more finite unit of measurement. It's kind of like the same as standard, you know, inches and whatever to millimeters. It's kind of like that, you know, just to kind of put it into some perspective. So we've got 135 degrees, which equates to 2.35 this and that in radians. So this is what the value you would want to use if you want to use that direction for this object. So if you want your pit cam looking in this direction based on net degrees, you would want to use that this in radians. So we'll go ahead and apply that. to our placement of our camera here. So that would be this direction here. So right now it's at a minus 2.96. And yeah, that would be a negative value too. So if it's negative in degrees, it would be negative in radians. Okay, so that's probably another dimension. So we want to apply it with this value that we just copied, paste, and we'll have to put a negative on it. Yeah, so definitely if it's negative in degrees, so again, it's the same thing here. If I apply this as negative, it'll be a negative 2.356. So I could copy that, paste it into my value here. I just apply the negative manually. So this will equate to that direction. Whoops. That equates to that direction. As far as, so if you want it to point just like that, then that's what you'd use. I'm going to adjust it just a little bit. Let's go into here. Oops, let's get that out of the way for a second. Let's point it like that. So again, this is at minus 119, so we'll copy this into our translate here. Paste, enter. Now it's this value. So we'll copy this value and paste that into our cam edit here. So place it to that. So that's the only difference, I guess, as far as being able to use the values directly from Sandbox into there. You just have to convert those degrees to radians, because that's what the game uses. Okay, so now our X, Y, and Z position, that's pretty straightforward, self-explanatory even. So if we go into Sandbox, right in this view here, so we can get that position, we can get that right from our properties, like this. So these properties, we'll just copy these right to, now you can round it off, I guess, if you want to. If you want it really precise, you can go ahead and apply that, but these are direct copies because of the way this camera works. It doesn't pan. It's just kind of, like I said, it's its own animal as far as the pick cams go. So I can paste those values right into here. So our Y is at this value. And then our elevation, we haven't adjusted that yet, so I think I'm going to move that up. I think the 8 should be fine. But let's go ahead and set this to an 8 meters high. So it's going to be that high. So we'll try it that way. We can probably bring this down, but we'll try it at the 8. We can always, I'll leave this here. We can always adjust that. But that should be what we're looking at as far as, like, this is fixed. So this doesn't pan or anything like that. So this camera, if we were to pull in this position, that's what it's looking at right there. That's roughly what it's looking at. That's a pretty good view, I guess, as far as the pit entrance. So that's, again, being able to use that as a guide to see what is that camera going to be looking at. That's another good way to do it. Okay, so that's good. I think all of our cameras that we wanted to adjust have been adjusted. So we'll go ahead and save this as a new PTF. I'm going to go back to Geometry View and save this as a brand new PTF. So we can always refer to that and make the appropriate adjustments as we see fit. So I'm going to go like this, and whoops, that's not what I wanted. I want to do underscore, and I'm going to do camera jig. Just to let me know as far as what's going on with this particular PTF. So camera jig. And if I want to date it, I can do that too, but the date's already going to be applied to the save of the PTF. So, but if you want to do that, that's fine as well. So there's my new PTF. That lets me know that, so I can refer to this back. So once I go into the sim, I don't need to load this in the game, right? This is more or less going to be considered a throwaway PTF. I'm still going to be referring to our original new PTF here. This is only for Sandbox as far as to get the coordinates for those cameras. That's all it's for. Alright, so with that being saved, and we've made all the adjustments in our cam file, we can go ahead and save this. I'm going to do a save as and right over to this one. Now, as I do this and close, I can leave this open. This is not a very resource heavy program, so I can definitely leave this open. But keeping in mind, if I do that, this temp file will stay open. I always like to refresh this temp folder, so you can do it one of two ways. It'll usually bark at you. Let's see if it'll do it. It'll probably bark at me if I try to delete this, which it didn't. So but the deal here is still open, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and close this. Sometimes it'll bark at you if you delete this folder while the program is still open. All that is it's using that temp folder. Is all it's doing is creating like a it's kind of like a persistence or a backup, I guess, of what you're doing. I always make the attempt of just creating that backup of the CAM file before I do anything to it. But that's just the nature of that program. So don't rely, I guess, on that temp folder, I guess, to be able to revert your CAM file back. This is all I'm saying. Alright, so it should load this new CAM file now that I got it saved. I'm just going to confirm that it did save, which it did. So now we can go into the sim and check it out. Just like that. So I'm going to leave this all open. Just load the sim back up there. And I'm not going to be racing here, so we're just going to check out the camera angles, I guess, from all the different views that we just suggested. So let's go ahead and load up the game. Let's bring in and launch the game and see what we got. Hopefully some of this information is proving to be useful. I know it does for me. And sometimes it's a little bit easier for me because I've designed the tools, but if there's definitely any means, I guess, to be able to tweak on it, I guess, a little bit, I got no problem with that either. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead into single race, load it up this way. Like I said, I'm not gonna be racing, but I'm gonna load the track up this way with our new CAM files. And again, I want to reiterate, if there's any really good information that anybody's finding, feel free to clip, either using the clip feature that's on Twitch there. That does necessarily navigate you away from the stream. That's understandable, but you can always use !clip, and that'll at least put a timestamp on the stream to give me an idea of what you found was necessarily important information. Okay, so we got this loading. So there's our pit lane 1. Pit lane 2 should be in that position. So we're in the wrong way, so we might have to go make it positive on that value as far as the radians, but that's really not a bad view there either. It should have pointed it the other way, but I guess in this case it ends up being this way. That's probably not a bad view there either, but it's still in that same spot, right? It's just the direction. I might add it. If I put it positive, it'll put it probably in the proper direction. So that's sometimes what happens, but it roughly still will put that in that same X, Y, and Z, at least anyway. So that's, if you want to keep it that way. If you want to make an adjustment, you can always refer back to your so let's go to our TV1. We'll have to put it on a car and see how we did here. So we did move it on the apex of the turns there. So let's see if we removed all that clipping. So far it looks pretty good. Yep, so all that clipping is gone now. So it's still putting in that same spot on the apex of each turn. So we're going into turn 1 and 2 here. So now there's no more clipping. That's all I was wanting to do. I think that's satisfactory. Let's look at TV2. Oh, see, we moved it over too far. So we had it at a -80, so we want to probably put it a little bit more. So probably about a -40. Now I wasn't taking into account, as far as that camera there for that next to the bridge. I wasn't taking into account how much zoom was into it. So if you can probably adjust the zoom on it too, and it probably, yeah, that's got a lot of zoom in it. But probably what I'll do there is just split the difference. So it was at a -80. It's currently like at a -23. I'll put it at like a -40, and I'll probably balance it out. That's only because it has a lot of zoom in it. If I took some of the zoom out of it, I wouldn't need to move it at all. Yeah, that's definitely got a lot of zoom in it. There's some clipping I noticed in one of that TV2 camera here. I want to check that out again. I saw some clipping in the track. See where that's at again. Right there. That's going into turn 1. I probably want to adjust that camera a little bit. So that's going to be around that 250 50 meter range, I guess, from the start finish line. I want to probably raise that one up a little bit so it doesn't clip. Yeah, I definitely need to adjust that one there. It's not a bad move though. Yeah, so it looks like the only one I need to adjust. Let me just put on a different car. So right here in TV2, I need to adjust that one that's in turn 1. See how it clips right there? It's kind of hard to see. Let me turn that up. See how it's clipping on the bottom edge? I want to get rid of that. Let me have it go around again. That's a pretty cool view right there. I'll just adjust that one right there. I'll split the difference on that one there. So when he gets back here into turn 1, you'll be able to see that clipping that's on the bottom of the screen right there. I want to get rid of that. So that would be just a matter of probably just raising that camera up a little bit. Go up on the Z with that one. And that's around, as we already came to that conclusion right in front of that press box. Now that's in TV2, right? TV1 actually looks at, because we did move that camera that was on the press box. Let's check that one out real quick. So the one that was on the press box, that's pretty well up there. That doesn't look too bad. That was the one we moved to 25, so it's on the top of it's on the roof of that press box. So it's definitely got raised up from, it was originally at 16 meters high. So it still doesn't look too bad where it's at. Coming back to the press box, that's on the press box right there. That's on the roof of the press box right there. Looks pretty good. Yeah, so the only one that looks like we need to adjust, I might move the, and again, you can always, that pit camera 2, as far as the entrance, you could probably adjust that one to get it the direction we wanted it to go, which is the other way. So if we want to leave it there, that's fine as well. You can see the cars coming in and see if they're speeding coming in or whatever. You can necessarily just leave it just like that. But I think what I will adjust for sure is this TV2 in turn 1. So let's go back to, let me get it on a car here that's going through turn 1. That's coming out of 4, so he's going into turn 1 right now. So yeah, I want to adjust this one up. Okay, so that's the only one I want to adjust for now. Let's get out of that. Let's go ahead and get out of that and make that adjustment. Okay. Alright, we'll go ahead and minimize this for now. So all we need to do is go into our track folder. I already closed out the cam edit just to kind of refresh it, so we're going to reload that. It should already point back to that cam file, that directory. There we go. Now we want to go into TV2, and the one that's at about 250, probably this one right here at 230, that's the one we want to adjust. Now I'm only using the information that I took from that press box. We know that was at 250. That gives me an idea of which one I need to look for here in TV2. So that's this one right here. It's a little too low, so I'll probably raise this up to what did I do? I put it at 10, I think it was on that. So we'll kind of raise this one up to we'll try 8, see if that's going to be enough. It's pretty low, that's why it's clipping, so we'll lift it up a little bit. So without even putting a cam jig in the tractor, that's all I can just test it this way. So you don't necessarily have to put a jig in there, but if you want to get that visual as far as in your tracking, go ahead and apply one in the track. I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a new cam file here. Boom, and we can go in there and check it out. We'll close it out. Now what'll happen here when I close this out here, I showed how you can eliminate something. A lot of times what it'll do, it will bark at you, but what happens when you exit out, that goes away automatically, so you don't have to do that. All that serves as a temp. It's kind of like a somewhat auto back, but don't ever go by any of those files that are in there as far as to reestablish, I guess, your original cam file, that's for sure. Definitely make a backup of it. Alright, so now all we need to do is go back in and sim and check it out. So load it back up and see what we look like. Okay, so single race. And keeping in mind, that's all I was doing is just checking in practice, so I didn't have to go actually into the race. All those cameras will still be the same regardless of which session. In testing mode, you won't get as much, you won't be able to see as much other than your pit, because you don't have any cars moving around. Unless you drive around yourself and then check it out after you do a lap or two, you can do it that way too. I just find it easier to go into a race weekend and just load them up that way. So we did not adjust this one. We left that one where it was at. I'm going to put this on TV2 and put it on a car that's going around the track. Gosh darn it. Let's put it on here right there. So let's see if we corrected that. So I removed a... So what we did was we raised that up to 8 meters instead of the 2.7 that it was at. Still got a little bit of clipping on that right there, and that's only when they're coming into the pits, obviously. We could probably move that either forward or back. So that would probably be more on the X or Y. I forgot to move that one. Shoot. I forgot to move that one. That's okay, though. Let's see how... So on the track, coming into turn 1 right here, we don't have any more clipping. Perfect. So we don't have any more clipping into the track there. That's all I wanted to... So that camera that's in the apex on the apron there, as far as like coming from the infield, we probably want to adjust that one too. This one I need to adjust there too, that fixed one there. So 2 cameras we want to check out in TV2. Apex next to the infield there, so it's going to be... Yeah, we'll check that out anyway. It'll make more sense in here. I'm taking those mental notes first. It's all in TV2 though. Let's get out of this. And let's go make those appropriate adjustments. So we have a camera. I'm going to check this one here in the infield. I don't want to forget to adjust that one that's at the... let's load our cam file up here, like so. Open. Boom. And go to TV2. And it should be... Now again, you can go either way. You can either apply a physical jig. You have that available. Or you've got... so we should have one right about in here somewhere. So about 400. Let's see here. 16, 230. Yeah, 420. And it's at a 40 from the start finish line. So that's definitely on the infield. So what is it? What was the number again? It's at a 420, 40. So 420. Where's my linear guide? I'm going to put that in that spot so I can have something visual to go by here. Let's move this over to what it says in here. So this is all based on information that's already in the cam file. If you've got nothing to go by, you can still do it both ways. So regardless if you've got information in a cam file that's already got established information, or you're starting fresh, you can use a linear guide to give you a general idea of where you want to put the cam. So in this case, we want to put it at 420 and 40 from the start finish line. So that's our X and Y. 420 is going to be right about there, and then we're at 40 from the start. So here's the center line. So we're going to be 40 from that. So let's stretch this out. That's at 35. So we're kind of like right into this. That's probably why it's clipping. So that's roughly 40. So that's probably why we're clipping, because that camera's behind that wall, and that's why it's clipping as they're coming on the pit road here. So we want to move that this way, or let's do it like this. Gosh darn it, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, so that's 40 meters right there. So our camera position's right here. So 40 meters from that, or you can go either way. It doesn't really matter. You can go by this. That's why it's clipping though, more likely. That camera's right behind the wall. So we'll use this as our camera position instead of the center, just to kind of make sense of that. So we want to move it forward like this, so it's not clipping into the wall. So it'll be up against the wall, but it won't be clipping into the wall. Also want to adjust this, so we're... Yep, so now we're going to be about 37 meters from the start finish line if you put it there. I'm going to move it away just a little bit. So about 36 and a half we're going to go. 36 and a half. Oh, for crying out loud, what'd you just do? Whoops, I must have used the arrow key. That'll happen too. You got to be careful with that. All that did was just, I used the arrow keys and it put me back to the top of the tier here. So I want to get back to that camera at 420 and move this to 36 and a half. Okay, and that's getting this distance right here. I'm using this value on the linear guide. That's how far we are. We're using this as our camera position. Okay, So D long on that is going to be, we can leave that at 420. That's at 424. We can leave it at 420. Our elevation, we definitely want to raise that up. Actually, maybe we don't. We'll leave that elevation right where it's at. Now that we're on the other side of the wall, probably won't be so much of an issue. This one takes over at minus 80. So that's fine. So the only thing we really had to adjust on this one here is to take it from behind the wall and put it on the other side of the wall. And then just adjust that distance from the center line is all. So yeah, that's all we had to adjust. I think that should be better. We'll try that out and see. Now the other thing I want to adjust is that camera out here. We have it at minus 23. That was at 1095. This one right here. I'm going to split the difference on this one here, just put it at a minus 40. So it was initially at a minus 80. So the fact that it's basically showing this end of the bridge now, and we've got all that zoom into it. That's something else I wanted to show. There's inclination, angle of vision here. That's what's basically controlling that. We could probably reduce this and not even mess with this one here. If we took some of this zoom out of here, which is basically your field of vision for this camera, that would probably eliminate some of that too. So you can adjust in this case either one, but not both, because if I adjust this one as well as that, it's probably going to zoom it out a lot further. So if you want it closer and or further away, adjust that field of vision. So if I was to adjust this angle of vision down, in this case by also adjusting the center line, it would probably put it further out this way, so it would show a lot more in the view. So having this as a higher number is basically like a zoom. It's basically take on a fixed camera like that. So I'm going to leave that alone. All I'm going to do is just split the difference. It was at an 80. We put it at 23. It's kind of showing this part of a majority of this part of the bridge. So if I put it at a 40, that should split that difference there. That should look pretty good. We'll test it out in the sim and see what it look like. Okay, so with that all being done, change that as well as that camera. That was at 420. Where'd it go? Right there. So we changed those two. We're going to save this as a new cam file. And I'm doing this all in the game track directory, as far as not in the track edit. Once I get this all set in my game track directory, I also want to copy that that new cam file into my track edit folder and pack that up with the track. That way you've got it in both locations. And part of the reason for doing that is to, if you ever find a reason, I guess, to want to edit the cam file outside of the track, it's always going to read this one first. As far as the sim is always going to read the one that's in the track folder, not the one in the DAT. So even if I was to take this cam file out of this folder, it's still going to read the one in the DAT, the one that's in the DAT. So if that gets if this gets edited and or removed, I guess, from the track folder itself, it's still got the one in the DAT. That's going to read that. That way you don't get that default cam as far as like everything's zoomed in like 10 times or whatever. That way you still got a cam file in there. That's part of the reason, I guess, to include the same cam that you would normally put in your track folder into your track DAT file as well. In this case, your track edit folder. So I'll do that once I get these cameras set, at least anyway, first. But it also gives you the freedom as far as being able to, if you want to have an edited camera in your track folder in comparison to what's in the DAT file, you can do that too. And then once you remove that cam file from the track folder, you can revert back to the original settings on the cam anyway. Let's go ahead and check these out now. Alright, so let's go into single race and see how these look. So we adjusted that. It's all in TV2, right? So that's probably something else to take in consideration. All we want to look at is TV2. So I gotta give this a second to load. Get on my screen. There we go. Let's go to TV2. And I'll blow this up here too. Let's do that. And put it on a car. There we go. So we want to be in TV2. Let's check these out now. So we already adjusted the one that was in turn 1 here, so that was already good to go. So we get to that one on the back stretch there by the TV. So that's still clipping on the apron there. So that might not be far enough away. I'm gonna have to move that a little bit more. That's a little better. Okay, we might want to bring it down. Just bring it down a little bit, maybe. So bring it down on the Z a little bit. TV1 still looks good. Yeah, so some of these cars that are coming, let me see if I can get another one that's coming out of the pits. Yeah. So there is still a little bit of clipping right there, so I'll probably move that camera a little bit more away from that wall anyway. So we'll go a little bit, we'll reduce that distance from center line anyway. Just a little bit. I'm going to bring that down on TV2 there, I guess, by the Petty Bridge. The pedestrian bridge, we'll put it that way. Not Petty as in Richard Petty. Make that clear. Yeah, this one looks really good. I like this shot. It's a nice speed shot. Yeah, this one here, I'll just bring it down a little bit. Could probably even do like a minus 35. Just take another 5 meters out of it and bring it down as well. I think that'll be a nice shot. Okay, I think we are. I think I got only. Oh, we almost got another slot, another jackpot there. Missed it by one. At Kappa. Yeah, Kappa got you. Alright, so let's go ahead and make some more adjustments here. So you will find yourself going in and out of it. It's not a perfect science when it comes to that, but it gives you a really good idea as far as like the adjustments I've made so far are definitely coinciding, with the exception to the pit camera. And obviously, if I wanted to move that from a negative value on the direction as opposed to positive, that probably put it exactly. But just to show you, I guess you would have to put that in radians and not degrees. It's very important, I guess, to if you try to use the degrees value, I guess, directly from Sandbox as far as the object placement view, that's not going to work. So hopefully that makes sense. Alright, so what we need to do is go back into our cam edit. And just based on what I experienced in there, I'm not going to worry about placing any camera jig or anything like that. I already know what I need to adjust. So what I'm going to do on that one that was at 420, I want to reduce this distance from center line. So I'm going to move that camera further away from the wall because it's still clipping a little bit. So I'll probably go, let's do about a 33, and I can always look at here because I think I still got that in that position. I don't have the camera jig, but I still have this here. So if I put this at a 33, that's going to move this camera. Now I'm keeping that point at the center line because that's what we're going that distance. So we want to put it at a 33. Just to see how it's moving it away from the. So I'm just moving it that much away from the wall again. So as it pans around, it's not going to clip into the walls as the cars go by. Just want to remove that clipping into the wall and such. So I can probably even go like a 32. Right now that's about 33. It's 33.08. That's about 32 right there. I think that's probably what I'll do is I'll do about a 32 instead of a 33. That way I know I'm far enough away from the wall. I don't have to worry about it clipping as that camera pans around. It's not too close because the cars are coming right through this direction in this path. So it's not going to be like right on the grass edge or anything like that. So got that one adjusted. Now I also want to adjust that one at 1095, which is where that pedestrian bridge is. So I'm going to take this down to a minus 35 and also bring this down a little bit. So instead of 25 meters, we'll go 20 meters. Bring it down 5 meters. I think that's going to be, that should really level that out really good. So we're not doing anything so far, I guess, as far as near. We can always save this as a new PTF if we want. Don't need to worry about it too much right now. So with those changes made, we're going to go ahead and save that. And go into game and check it out. Close it out. Now let's go into this, go into sim and check it out. Just that simple. Single race. Continue. So whatever cameras you want to apply here, I mean, I'm kind of doing this to my own taste. what I feel is, good broadcasting cameras or anything like that. But however you want to apply those, that's that's your choice as far as what you want to do. All right, so the pit lane 1, pit lane 2, and again, if we want to turn that, make that a positive value on that to turn it the other way, let's put this on camera TV2, and then let's put it on the camera that's going around. Let's get this guy. So again, the two areas we want to look at, he's going to be coming out of the pits there. I want to see if that's not clipping into the... Yeah, this is one I want to check. See if it clips anymore. And it does not. So that takeover is perfect. So this one takes over, I guess, before that even gets a chance, I guess, to clip. That's still a little bit off there, so I only removed that by 5 meters. So there's still a little bit more adjustment I can make on that pedestrian bridge shot. I might just go ahead and put a camera there, a jig anyway, so I can kind of get a better idea of. Because now that I made this many adjustments, as far as just trying to, it's not giving me, I guess, the view that I want. So I'm going to put an actual camera jig there to actually get the view that I want for that spot. Because I've already made it. That's about the third adjustment I made too, and it's still not quite right. So this is where at this point I'll just go ahead and put a jig there, so I can get the shot that I want there, for sure. Yeah, that one's still not quite right. It's not over the track as much as I'd like it to be. We're close, and I could necessarily just adjust that center line, I guess, a little bit more, just bring it down another 5 meters. But I'm going to put a jig there just to. So we're good. That's the only one we got to adjust at this point. Is just that one on the pedestrian bridge. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjust that. We are good to go so far. Let's close that out. Exit out. You definitely want to make sure you're completely exiting out of the game, out of the sim too, when you're making these adjustments, because if you're keeping it live, those adjustments to your cam file aren't going to apply until you close it and reopen it. So let's go into Sandbox, and we're going to take our linear guide with us over to the hell. Oh, there we go. I was hitting the wrong key. It's like, why is it not moving? All right, so I'm going to take my linear guide with me. Everything else is adjusted to satisfaction so far. So we want to put the camera. So right now we are at 1095. Let's see. That's 1083. Okay, that's roughly 1095 there, and we're at 35 from the center line. I want to get this on the center line. Okay, that's about 1095. Okay, so from the center line, and then we're at. Check this out here. Oops, wrong one. We got to open up our track edit, or cam edit, I should say. Let's get into there. Open. TV2, and it's going to be this one right here. So we're at 1095, minus 35, 20 elevation. Yep, so we're going to be roughly, oh, I'm at 32, so we're at 35. So right about there. So that camera is right there. So as far as that direction that it's looking at, okay, but I'm going to actually put a physical camera here, just kind of give me an idea here, so I can get the direction and all that stuff. So let's go to Object. So right at the end of this point here, just put a camera right there so we can see exactly what we're looking at. Whoops, not too far. Camera jig. Should be right there. Cool. Zoom in a little bit. Now we're at what elevation? 20. So let's apply the same thing. So we're going to go 20 on the elevation, which is the Z. Yeah, I'm using that linear guide, I guess, as my guide here. So the direction, that's another thing I want to pay attention to. We got it at a... I'm going to copy this value so I can get the degrees. So I can go the opposite direction. So we got this much in radians. That's going to be 175. It's almost 180 degrees. 176 degrees, let's put it that way. My bad. So 176 degrees on this here. And I can type it in manually too. Usually use a slider, just put 176 degrees. Okay, I think that's right. That can't be right. Hold on a second. Might have to do it negative. Maybe negative. Yeah, so the lens is actually showing it's pointing this way. Let me try a negative. See what that gives me. Nope, not that one. Let's put this at a negative 176. Nope, that's still not right. Why is it not? Okay, let me put it this way. Should have been able to take that direction value 1095 and copied that. I should have been able to. So that's the direction we're looking. So that's about minus 77. Let's try it this way. Interesting. Yeah, copy that. And put that in here for the degrees. So that ends up being minus 134. Yeah, that's kind of a weird... Yeah, so this value here should have been able to equate, I guess, to the degrees as far as being able to take that value. But the fact that it didn't... I'm making sure I got the right camera. Yes, I got the right camera. Interesting. Usually that works. So let me try this again. So put the radians in here. That's saying it should be basically 176 degrees, but that's definitely not what we witness here in Sandbox. So that's the direction we want it to be. Okay, we're just going to go this way. So based on the fact that we've got this physical item here, that's the direction, whoops, we want to face. Amen. Yeah, so this is definitely what we're seeing in the sim, right? As far as this half here, so we want to get it closer. So that's basically going to be a reduction in the center line. So we want to bring this closer, so that kind of centers that up, and then we'll just plug in the appropriate radians based on this position of this object, and go from there. All right, so let's go back into geometry view, and we need to shrink up this here. Just let me get this a little bit closer here. We want to bring this in a little bit. Go back to object view. So that right there is 26 point. Okay, let's even this up here. Let's try this. Get real finicky here. Put that at about 26 meters there, roughly. Object placement, and we're going to put this camera right on the end of that linear guide. That's why you got this dot here. I'm just putting it right on the end of this here. So we're keeping that direction. That should give us a better view. So that's going to be looking straight down the back stretch here. As far as the direction of the camera. This is a fixed camera. Keep that in mind too. It doesn't pan or anything. It stays right in that position. Okay, so we're going to plug these values in for that object. Right, so let's go to geometry view. We are at almost 1099 on the D long. So let's try that. That's distance from the center line. It's basically D long. So put it at 1098. We are how far from center line? Minus 25.7. Okay, so minus 25.7 on the center line. And you can use decimal on these. Elevation, we're going to leave at 20. And everything else should be good. So making that appropriate just now. The direction, we want to get that from the object view. So we'll go here. We're going to get that from the properties of the object view. So we're taking this value and just copy that. I think it's already in there. We'll go ahead and make sure. Nope. So we need to plug this into degrees. And then use this radians. Okay. I mean, this might have to be positive. Just as we saw with the pit cam. That might be the case. But we'll go ahead and try it this way and see what we get. Might have to make that positive though. So with all those changes, we'll go ahead and do a save as. Boom. And overwrite and close this out. And looks like my playlist is done. Let's go start that back up here. There we go. Okay, so now let's go into the sim and check that out then. Yeah, the fact that it didn't go backwards, from the radians that we're getting in the cam edit and plug that in there and give me the proper degrees. That's kind of a little weird. It's normally not how that works, but it seems to be the case here. But you can also set up your physical camera just like I did there. So it may just come down to where I might have to adjust it from negative to positive in this case, just like the pit cam. Should be the way that works here. Just give me a second here to game to load up. Okay, let's go to single race. Let's see what we got here. So TV2 is all we want to go to, so we'll switch that automatically to TV2. Beef that up. There's one that's on the move. Alright, so we'll follow him around. See what we got here. We might have really jacked that up there. I think in what might be the case, it's probably going to end up the same way as the pit cam. As it'll probably be pointing in the wrong direction. It might be facing towards the stands. So we'll just have to change that to a positive value on the direction. We'll see what happens here though. Yeah, there's still a lot of stutter on the pit road there as far as the cars come out of that, and that's due to those objects that are kind of still a little beefy yet. So that one worked out pretty good. Yep. I like that transition of that camera. Oh my goodness, I really screwed that one up. Yeah, I really screwed that camera up. I think that's just facing outside the track now. Okay, so we'll have to revert to what was in there. It was like at a 3 point. I didn't know what the exact value was, but it was like at a 3.02 something. Which I can apply that. I kind of took a mental note of that. I could have took a snapshot of that. Yeah, that definitely screwed that camera up. Something ridiculous. Okay, no problem. Nothing to be worried about. We can definitely reapply. I really don't know why that radians isn't working out like it should. That's really peculiar. Oops, I forgot to close this out. Usually I close that out, but okay, I did come back in. Sweet. Alright, yeah, so the fact that it looks like what it's doing is it's actually pointed out what the value I got to it. It's pointed out, whoops, this way. That's weird. Yeah, it's definitely looking outside the track like that. We don't want that, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do, I kind of took a mental note of what that was without taking a snippet. We're going to load this camera edit back up. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Let's load this up. Yeah, I could have definitely taken a snippet of that information. Sometimes that might not be a bad idea to take a snippet of the previous information that was there. So the fact that I did take a note of that, it was at a positive 3.02. I don't know what the other decimals were, but that's pretty close. So let me set that back to there and we'll check it that way. That really doesn't make any sense to me. I should have definitely, you know what, it should be in here. Nope, I took that out. I might be able to go back. Let me see here. Nope. Doesn't do work that way. Okay, no problem. Thought maybe I could get it that way too. That would have been another way. I guess I could have done it. That didn't work out that way. This was close. I just don't remember what the rest of the numbers were. It was like 3.02 something or other. So let's go ahead and save that. And we'll see what we get this way. Not 100% sure, like I said, as far as why it's not equating into the conversion like it did for the pit cam. Yeah, the pit cam anyway. Okay. So we'll load up the track that way with that one saved. Usually in the case, that should be the way it works anyway. Hopefully that makes... Whoop, missed it by another... That darn Kappa keeps squeaking in there. Kappa keeps squeaking in there and ruining that jackpot. Alright, so let's load this one up here. TV2 is going to be the camera we want to switch to. Get this to load up here for a second. Alright, so we're loaded up here, so let's beam this up, put it to TV2, and get ourselves on a car that's moving around. There we go. Yeah, so there's still quite a bit of stutter on the pit road, like I was saying. And I think once those objects that are near pit road there get worked on, I think we'll be in good shape. Get rid of a lot of that problem. Okay. That is not what I expected. So we got somewhat of an issue, I guess, of the field of view. So we might have to adjust that field of view anyway. There's really no way, I guess, to really get a sense of the fact that it was at like at a 0.2. That's pretty zoomed in. That's pretty well zoomed in. So we might just have to scale back that field of view. I think our position's fine. It's just the field. It's zoomed in quite a bit. So I think if I just reduce that angle of vision, I think we'll be okay. Yeah, it was up pretty high. There's really no way to gauge that other than the fact that you just kind of have to know. The higher the number on that angle of vision, the more zoomed in it's going to be. And the fact that it's at a 0.2, it's not even at a whole number. It kind of gives you a sense of just how much zoom is on that camera. So that's why it's looking like it is anyway. So I'm going to scale that angle of vision down just a little bit on that one. So let's get out of there and make that adjustment. Because our position, I know, is pretty much where we want it to be. It's just that angle of vision that's really screwing with us there. Is all. Let's leave that open. So let's go back into our cam edit. Load up the cam file. Go to that camera. Now the fact that these aren't labeled as far as like, you know, pedestrian bridge, there's no way to do that. You just gotta know the position, right? And that's using Sandbox as your guide. And especially when you put these jigs down, it'll really give you a sense of, you know, where these different cameras are. Trying to read it directly from here, it's almost impossible. You have to have that visual of the track as far as to say, okay, where's that position? So by being able to put this jig down definitely helps in that process. Anyway, let me change the degrees on this one here again. So the degrees doesn't seem to be working out for us, so I just want to put it that way. This is the perspective that we're trying to go for here. So I'm going to adjust the angle of vision on this one here. So right now, as I said, it's at like a 2.279. That's pretty zoomed in. And that goes for even pan cameras, you know, as far as turning or panning cameras. The higher that value, the more zoom you're going to have. And this is pretty well zoomed in here. So I'm going to tone this down quite a bit and put it to like a 0.08. That should move it out a little bit more. So our field of view is going to be more closer to the camera and not so much, you know, closer to the object that it's pointing to. Let's put it that way. So let's do this. We should get a much more field of view by lowering that. It'll put it more or less less of a closeness to it, less zoom. All right, so let's save that and close that out and go back into it and check that out. That's really about the only thing you can give yourself. There's no jig that I haven't applied. You almost have to kind of use your how do I want to put it, as far as like just understanding as far as how field of vision works. The higher the number, the closer to whatever it is you're pointing at, it's going to be. So the fact that we've got it at a 0.2 and it gives you see what we see in there. So by lowering that, it's going to move that field of vision further back. Hopefully that makes sense. So the corner closer to the point of origin as far as like where the camera's at. So the fact that we got it at a 0.2, it's going to put it, you know, closer. Putting it back like I did, it's going to move it closer to it. So it's going to be still not right on top of it. So if I put the field of vision at 0, it's going to be right on top of the point of origin, which is going to give us a lot more field of view. I don't want it right on top of it. I want it a little bit further out, you know, from the point of origin in the camera in this state. So by putting it at a 0.08, that's what's going to accomplish that. So let's go in here and check it out. Single race. Yep, it's got to give it a second to load up here. There we go. Alright, so we want to go, let's load this up. TV2. And let's get us a car that's moving. There we go. Let's follow this guy. Yep, still got that stutter there. I'm going to keep pointing that out, I guess, until that gets fixed there. That's the only place we really got any stutters, this on the pit road there. It's got a lot of detail going on in there. Okay, so we're alrighty then. I didn't expect that at all. What the hell's that pointing at? I might have to just cut it in half. It was at a 0.276. I might have to do it like a 0.13 something or other. That's really weird. That camera view is definitely screwing with us. Wow, that's working almost the opposite of what I was just talking about. That is weird. That should not be the case. Okay, so we might have to increase that instead of reduce it. I'm trying to roll my memory back through. I think if it's a panning camera, as opposed to a fixed one, I think the field of vision as far as the zoom is the opposite. I'm trying to remember. So the fact that we're dealing with a fixed camera, yeah, I think it's the exact opposite of a panning camera. So a panning camera, if you put it at a higher number, the zoom is much more intense. So you need to lower that if you don't want quite as much zoom on a panning camera. So on a fixed camera, you want to increase that field of vision, which is kind of serves as a zoom. So it's kind of a backwards effect on a fixed camera. So I think I need to go up on that value instead of lower. I'm refreshing my own memory, I guess, as I do this. It's been a while since I've had to do these cameras. But I think that is what we're dealing with here. It's zooming it in more as opposed to panning it out the way I was expecting it to. So I need to increase that value. Okay. So I'm going to put it at like a 0.4. Was that a 0.276? Roughly. Before the adjustment. So yeah, we'll go ahead and increase that value instead of lower it. Alright, so let's do that. Cam edit. Yeah, I'm definitely refreshing my memory. It's been a little bit of time that I've had to deal with these cameras here. A little rusty, so I gotta shake that rust off. So on this one here, instead of lowering this value for the field of view, I need to increase it. I'm gonna go 0.4. It was at a 2.76. So that should pan it out a little bit more. The field of view should pan out a little bit more. So it's just opposite the effect, like I said, as far as between a turning or panning camera and a fixed camera. So let's do a file save as. See what this gives us here. Close that out. Temp file goes away. Good. Go right into it and check it out. Whoop, just gotta give it a second for that to load. It's showing for you all, it's just on my end as far as the display. Takes it a second. Gotta figure out what it needs to do with it. That's just the byproduct, I guess, of having multiple monitors as far as doing separate. They're all each of their own individual task. Alright, so single race. And ready, get that to load in. Wait till the little hourglass stops. Loads in pretty quick too, as far as that's pretty nice. Doesn't take forever for it to load, so let's do TV2 and put it on a car that's moving. I like to move it, move it. There we go. See what we got now. Yeah, I think it is probably definitely the opposite here. We should get a much better result, I guess, on this one now. If my memory serving me correctly, because as far as how the difference between fixed cameras and panning cameras work, as far as the zoom or angle of vision. Probably something else I might want to adjust on that camera there is how soon it takes over. Nope, still not. I don't understand that. That one's being a real pain in the butt. That one's really starting to be a pain in the butt. Let me have it go around here again. That one looks really good. I like that one. Yeah, so I want to get it more over the track, in the center of the track. So where I had it should have been good. I'm not going to adjust anything else other than just the at this point. But you see how that adjusted there when I increase that value. I might even just go up probably a little bit higher on that field of vision, because you notice that when I had it lower at the 0.08, how much closer it was to it, to the actual thing it was pointed in the direction of. So when I increased that value, it did pan it out. So I could probably just increase that angle of vision and it would probably be just fine. I might just try that. I might put it at a very small number, probably just like a 0.5 instead of a 0.4, and see what that gives me. I might end up having to go like a 0.6. I might try a 0.6 on that. That might work. Let's try that. Let's do a 0.6 on it. I think that might give us a really good view on that. Let's go ahead and do that. Cam edit. Let's load that cam out. So currently it is at a 0.4 on the field of vision. We're going to go 0.6. That should pan it out quite a bit more. Not so much. It's not going to be like super far away, but it'll get that whole bridge in the view. And obviously the car's coming at the camera. That's kind of the approach, the effect I'm going for anyway. And again, this is just my own perspective of it. You can feel free, I guess, to put them however you want. As far as like, hopefully all this is kind of give you some idea of how that works. As far as how applying these values, very minimal adjustments there. Now I did go from one extreme to the next only because based on that prior adjustment I made there was quite extreme. So you can see just by just minimal adjustments there, it's going to make a big difference. Definitely. So you want to use small numbers, not big numbers. As far as especially with things like zoom and angle of vision. Single race. Oh, he scolded. And the bot gave in. Alright, so let's load that up. Okay. So, like that. Let's go to TV2. Alright, let's get it on a car that's moving around. There we go. Let's follow this. Keselowski? No, it's Kurt Busch. That's an old. So we got a Keselowski as well as a Kurt Busch, I guess, in the 2 car. That's interesting. He's in a Dodge here. It's definitely fictional. The newer Dodge, anyway. Yeah, so far all of our cameras have worked out pretty good as far as all the adjustments. Oh, we're getting closer. Yeah, so see, and I went even higher than I was going to go in the first place. I could probably even put it at an even 1. I think that would probably give us what we want. Right now we're at a 0.6, so I can probably put it just at a 1. And that'll probably give us the view we want. Yep, I think a 1 will do it. And I can probably even lower it, bring the elevation down just a touch. I think that'll give us the view that we want. So I wouldn't really consider it, I guess, to be guesswork on here. You know, it's not totally wonking out our camera. It's understanding as far as like what those values necessarily, how they adjust these things. I think if I lower it down and put it to a value of a field of vision of 1, I think we'll be right there. I think it'll be right where we want it. Yes, let's do that for that camera view. And it is kind of making sense to me now as far as like I said, it's been a while. So the fact that I've got it at a field of vision of 1, it's kind of like a 1-1 ratio. So basically what that's going to do, based on where this camera's at, if I put it at a field of vision of 1, it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. So at this camera position, it's going to show everything that would be to the left and right of it to include forward of it. So it's going to get all that in the view if I put that to a 1, closer to a 1 on the field of vision. And that's making a lot more sense now as far as a fixed camera anyway. Works a little bit different with a panning camera. Okay, so you don't want to necessarily put, now depending on how close you are so like on cameras that are closer to the apron, say for example, if you put that at a zoom of 1, as far as on a panning camera, you're going to get a ton of zoom. I mean, you're probably going to go through the track. That's how much zoom. So you definitely want to have that at be a lower value. So that's a little bit different animal, I guess, when it comes to a fixed camera on these TV 1 and 2 cameras. That's something to take in consideration, at least anyway. And you'll find that once you do apply that numbers, just how that works. So field of vision and zoom are going to work almost opposite of each other, I guess, as far as especially with a fixed as opposed to a turning or panning camera. Okay. I want to... Do I got that open yet? No, I don't. So let's load this one back up. And we're going to fix the field of view. I'm going to put it right to a 1. And I'm also going to lower, instead of put this at 20, let me put this in fact, I got the camera jig right in here. Go to camera view here. Where am I pointed at here? Right there. So we got that camera right there. So I'm going to lower this down just a tad. So again, we can kind of look at it. We haven't looked at it from this perspective yet. So this is basically what that camera's looking at. Now this is going to be if it's at a 1. This should be what we're looking at. I should have probably looked at it from this point. So from my angle of vision of 1, this should be what we're looking at that camera position. And that's kind of what I was going for. Like that. Now if you want to zoom it in just a little bit more, I can probably go a little bit less than 1. So I can do it like a 0.95. Something like that. That might work too. In fact, let's humor that anyway. Let's do a 0.95. So it would be a little bit closer, I guess, to that. So it won't be exactly right on top of the camera. This would be what we're looking at if we do put it at a 1. But I also want to bring it down. So let's do that. Let's go here. Got that highlighted. Let's bring it down to, let's say, 15. 5 meters. So that'll be right at this level. So this is what it'll be looking at. So we can see the bounding box and kind of use that as a guide as far as like, you know, where we're at as far as the camera position. This is what it'll be looking at. That's actually not too bad. We might try that. So put it at 15 meters high. And changing I'm not changing anything else other than that and the field of vision as far as the 0.95. So let's save that. I probably should have been looking at it that way, and I wasn't using entirely, I guess, what I, you know, at my disposal as far as that visual jig. So this is definitely going to give us more of a better perspective of what that camera is going to be looking at. So yep, and that's pretty much what that camera is going to be looking at right there. Okay, based on everything we tested in the sim so far too. So we save that. Let's go in there and check it out. Yep, cool. Let's load it up. Check it out. Yeah, the fact that that's all showing on this, on my, there it goes. Now it just loaded. All right. That's just weird how it shows up on the stream, but it doesn't on my actual monitor. It's funny. TV2. Put it on a car that's moving. What y'all know? None of you want to move? What's up? There we go. There we go. See, I'm kind of almost thinking too, I might want to put it maybe even like a 875 or something like that on the field of view. We'll have to see how this looks here. Just based on what I was witnessing. Yeah, look at that little bit of stutter there yet. Nope, can't give yourself a shot just yet. Can't be spamming yourself shots. Those are at a premium. Oh baby, yeah. That's pretty much what we saw in Sandbox. Much better. Now, if we want to from this point, if we want to zoom it in a little bit closer to the track, we want to reduce that field of view. Not by much. Like I said, probably like a 0.875 or an 8.5. Right now it's at a 0.995, which is just that much less than 1. That actually doesn't look too bad like that. But if I want to center that more over the, I could probably reduce the center line just a little bit, as far as bring it, yeah, reduce that center. Actually, I would need to increase. I take that back from the center line, kind of center it up on that bridge, and I think it will be really good. I think I want to increase, I guess, on the center, from the center line, I guess, a little bit, just a little bit. I want to get that camera view, I guess, to kind of line up the middle of that. Oh, who's smoking there coming off the apron there? That's crazy. Yeah, for the most part, that's not a really bad view. I'm digging it. I'm definitely digging it. Okay. Let's go and make our appropriate adjustments then. Yeah, so I'm not going to mess with the direction or anything like that. We're good on that. I think we dialed in on that pretty good. Okay, let's load this up. Only thing I want to do is I'm going to lower this down to an 8.5 and then also adjust the center line. That's not going to affect that center line, so I want to, it's at a 20 minus 25.7. I want to increase this a little bit. So again, I can use this as a guide. So it's kind of off center, right? So I think to bring it closer to the track a little bit. Trying to remember what I was seeing there. I think that direction is really screwing me up too, because this direction that I have it's not 100% correct, and I don't want to mess with the direction. So I think what I was looking at in the game, let's see if I can kind of reposition this here. So what we saw in the game, let me see if I can't lower this here. Why is it not lowering? There we go. I want to slow that up a little bit. So what the camera was looking at was like that. It was like not quite centered, so I want to move it. I want to strafe it basically as far as over this way without messing with the direction, just to center that up on that bridge. So I want to be more like that. So to me, that would be increasing the center line. So adjusting our center line, have that camera further away from the center line. That's what okay, let's try that and see what happens here. So if we go here, I gotta get the geometry view, that's right. So I can adjust this out like so. Oops. Let's zoom in here so we can get that point. So we'll stretch this out. This might be a little bit tricky because well, as I move this out, it's not being straight, right? So it's not like stuck on that position. I can't snap that, I guess, because it's moving this way and this way. So the only thing I can go by is just kind of dissecting, I guess, this this visual camera. So it was originally in this position, so if I just follow this track and just kind of line it up with that center dot, I want to move it out this way. And then I'll physically move. Where's that put that? That's about 29 meters right there. 29.03. So let's do object placement. I'm also going to move the camera to the end of that point. Right now, I think the only thing that's really screwing with me is that direction. So the fact that I'm just going 100% by what I know. I'm going to keep this, even though this is not probably directly the direction I have this physical object at is not going to be coinciding with what's in the sim. I'm just going to leave that there to kind of give me some type of visual as far as like what I'm trying to point at, I guess, if that makes sense. That degrees there as far as the radians and that conversion is obviously screwing with me at this point. As far as why it's doing that, I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to put that at the center line at 29 meters. So instead of this 25.7, I'm moving it further out. That should center that up on what we're seeing in the sim anyway. So 29 meters. Round that right off. File, save as, and save that. Which one? I'm going to go ahead and check that out. Boom. Alright. And load it up. Man, you got all kinds of emotes on that slots pull. Let's go to single race. Load it up. Probably the only other thing that I'm thinking of as I'm doing these camera adjustments, there's the pit stall. As far as the full pace lap, would still need to be adjusted there. I'm not going to go into that this stream, but that's probably something else that will have to be addressed at some point. That's always fun to do. A little bit of sarcasm in there. Let's see. TV2. So we got a bunch of cars going around here. There we go. Let's try this guy. That should center up if my logic is correct here. It should center that camera up more on the center point of that bridge. I think I'm going to adjust that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's not quite as much as I thought it would be, but that's definitely better. I want to also adjust that takeover of that camera. Just a little bit. I want to shave off a little bit of that takeover distance. I want to probably, yeah, shave some of that time off. Oh, actually, I need to increase that value because I want it to take over sooner. That's what I want. Yeah, I think that's going to work. I like that. Yeah, so we had to fiddle with that a little bit on that camera, and that's only because that direction, and then that field of vision was obviously screwing with me a little bit too, but that direction's really screwing me the most. The fact that it's that conversion from what we were getting in the camera edit, that value didn't translate into degrees. It should have, but the fact that it didn't, that's that damn Kappa keeps showing up in that jackpot there. So I think we're good on that. I just want to adjust the takeover of that camera, so we want to increase that value on that particular camera for that pedestrian bridge. It kind of holds on that one, that first pedestrian bridge a little longer. So in my feeling, we should not have it sit on that camera for as long as it is. So this is the way we want to adjust that. I was mentioning that a little bit earlier, but in this case we want to adjust one of these. So this takeover distance, it takes over at minus 255. So from the previous camera position, so our one that's previous to that is at 700 meters, which is that first petty bridge. That's also a fixed camera, as we can see here. Alright, so from what we can do here, we're all good to go on that camera. Let's go to geometry view, so we can move our linear guide, so we can get some perspective here. So at 700 meters is where we got the other camera fixed. Let's let's set this point at where that camera is going to be. So right about there, and then how far from the center line? We are at minus 371, so not too far from the center line. Let's move it this way. Whoop, it's going to be this way, my bad. We're using this as our camera position, this end right here. Okay, so right about there. That's where their camera position is. Let me make sure that yeah, right about right there. That's where that camera position is fixed, coming off of this bridge. So from here, I want to stretch this out. So at 255 meters from that point, that's when that camera takes over. So we want to stretch this out to 255 meters. That's 138. So right about there. That's when it takes over. So basically that takes into consideration whatever car that you're focused on. That's another thing to take into consideration. From this point, it takes over. By the time that car gets to here, that's when that camera takes over. So that's too late. So what we want to do is increase that so it takes over sooner. So the other thing to take into consideration is the camera position that we're dealing with here. In fact, we can also we can go backwards with this. I kind of mentioned that backwards. So from the camera position that's applied to, so this is the distance, right? So this is when it'll take over. If we put this end at that 255 on this camera position, that's how much gap there's going to be before that takes over. So I just want to get this over that camera position like this. So from this camera position, when the car hits this point, this is based on that camera position here, as far as that bridge, this is when that camera will take over. Hopefully that makes sense. So at this distance here, once the car hits this distance from the previous camera, that's when this camera takes over. That's basically how that works. So what we want to do is increase this value so that it takes over sooner. So right there, it's about the middle of the backstretch. So if we increase that value, it's going to take over sooner. So by the time the car gets to this point, it'll take over. Let's kind of split the difference here. So by the time the car gets to this point, this camera will take over. So that's about 298. No, 290. We'll put it at a 290. So by the time it hits this point at 290 from that camera, that's when that camera will take over instead of at 255, which is somewhere in that range. Right about there, roughly. So we want to increase that value. So about 290 we want to set that to as far as the takeover, like I said. So let's do on this camera. And that's considering this camera, not, you don't want to adjust the camera that the previous camera, we don't want to do anything to that. It's just this camera here that as far as the takeover from it, not the previous camera. So hopefully that makes sense. And this is what gives you a visual as far as like how that basically works. Setup based on the previous camera, which we said was right about there. So that represents that camera. Stretch it out to that distance to the other camera, right? in this case, you don't want to necessarily point it right onto, you don't want it to wait until it gets to that camera position before it takes over necessarily. Maybe you might, but in this case we don't. So if you did want it to wait till the car got to that point, you could definitely go that route too. So if you want that distance, you don't want the camera to take over until the car actually gets to that position where that camera's at, you can do that too. In this case, we don't want to do it, like I said. So in this case, we want it was originally at 255. I'm just going to kind of go through this again, just to kind of reiterate all. I feel it's good information. So at 255, see right about there. So that's the distance. Now you want to take that, not doing anything with this end, just grab it from the center, put it at that camera position. Car hits that point as when that camera takes over. Again, that's just to kind of, so now you got two chances there, I guess, to kind of understand how that concept works with the takeover distance. Okay, in fact, I'm going to do this just to kind of remind myself, because sometimes I have to remember that stuff. I 100% encourage, I guess, anybody that if they want to make a clip, if you want to make your own clip or just do that, that's another way, I guess, to be able to do it. Not only for yourself, but also me. So sometimes I need that refresher course, I guess, as far as that goes. So anyway, we did adjust this to the 290. We want to increase that value. Now we're going to save this. Now it's just going to, that camera will take over sooner and not hang on that that camera here at this bridge for as long, or quite as long. And we only moved at about 45 meters, thereabouts, roughly. Something like that. So we got that saved. Now we'll go into the sim and check it out. Okay, let's load it up with single race. I'm starting to get hungry, I ain't gonna lie. I didn't eat anything. I think the last time I ate was about 8 o'clock or so this morning. So yeah, I'm getting hungry. This might end up being a real short stream. I need to start making these streams a little bit shorter in length, because I'm coming to find, as I try to get the archives off the Twitch channel, I guess over YouTube, it takes forever for the dang thing to process. If it ends up being much more over 4 hours, so I need to get back into that pattern of keeping these streams, I guess, within the 4-hour mark, because it's just a pain in the butt, I guess, to get it transferred over to the YouTube channel. It takes practically all day for that thing to render if it's over 4 hours, unfortunately. Okay, so let's load this up. So yeah, I'll probably be ending this relatively soon here, I guess, as far as to we've gone over a lot of information. We did a little bit of a short race there. We checked out all the changes that have been applied since the last time. I think it's been pretty good. Alright, so let's go pit lane 2. No. TV2, my bad. And pan it over to a car. Okay, here we go. Let's try this guy. Yep, so that takes over a little bit sooner. So we'll follow this guy around. I think we're pretty good. What happened to my playlist there? In fact, I think that's Danica, isn't that Danica? That's Eric Amarola, never mind. Alright, so we're going to pay attention to the takeover. So there's that camera. And then that camera. It's a lot quicker now. So it doesn't hang on that one camera, I guess, for as long. And that's all we adjusted there. Just that little bit of takeover distance is all. Check it again. So that camera to that camera. Yeah, it's a lot quicker now. I like it though. It's not a really quick takeover either. You know, it'll hang on there for that first pedestrian grid, I guess, for a little bit, but not quite as long. That's about all. Cool beans. So I think these camera files they work for me. I don't know if they necessarily work for Torch, but that leaves you some insight, I guess, as far as how you can adjust those cameras anyway. Don't let it discourage you, I guess, as far as the troubles that I had. I was a little rusty myself, I guess, as far as dealing with that, but it's just kind of understanding what the values are doing as you adjust them, and definitely want to go in small increments in most cases. Use that pit jig. It's freely available, I guess, for the use. It's on the Spline Design Studios website. Only thing it requires is to be registered, and yeah, use that. Between that camera jig and the linear guide are definitely going to be your friend when it comes to placing custom camera angles to the track. But I think this is a pretty good. I think we're in a pretty good shape here, I guess. With the, I've just been kind of watching the frames here too, I guess, as they. Let's kind of put it back in this view. The frames have been pretty decent from this TV2 camera anyway. Can you get me a raw version of the camera jig? You have an idea for improve on it? I got all those files, yeah. I'll look into that for you. I know there's probably some refinements that can be made to that jig. For my purposes, as far as just being able to have an object into the track to be able to use those, you know, to get those values. If anything, that's really part of the reason why I created it in the first place. Having something visual in the track instead of just using a mouse pointer was always annoying. Because for the longest time I was just using the linear guide, but when you have to move that around to get all your camera positions, you don't have anything left in that position so that you can go back and adjust them later on if you want. So even at this point, I'll go ahead and get out of this. I can save this PTF with all those jigs that I have in the track as far as the track edit, and I can adjust them. So even if I was to take the initiative to apply every single camera angle that I've got in there as far as the different camera positions, I can do that. Right? So in fact, as I say that, I'm going to go ahead and save this as a PTF. I'll just save over that. It's basically considered a throwaway. It's not going to be used in the sim or anything like that. So I don't have to worry about overwriting it. But if you want to save a new PTF, feel free to do that. But for this one being a throwaway, if that one gets corrupted, it don't matter. You can always reapply those and just start over if you have to. But it's just placeholders for the camera positions is all. But I can go back to this, as like I said, and adjust those just as I've gone through the whole process there, as far as like going through the cam edit and all that stuff. And I can use that totally separate. So the only thing, the fact that I labeled it as a camera jig, I know all I got to do is make sure I got the camera jig files into the track. That way I can load it up in Sandbox. So this PTF and that camera jig is the only thing applied to that by naming it that way. So, well, I'm pretty much tapped out, I guess, as far as that goes. That's been pretty fun. So I got this all saved. I'm gonna close this out, and hope everybody did use that information. Yeah, so I did take a snippet of that. I'll be using that as a thumbnail, I guess, on the VOD there, I think, to kind of show that off. That worked out pretty good. But I think with all those other objects like I was mentioning, I know I keep beating a dead horse there, but I think once we get all those, the media center, the media building, that tower that's in the middle of the pit road, and then that those couple of objects at the pit entrance, as far as that stand and all that stuff, I think once those get toned down, as far as their complexity, their construct, I guess, as far as the 3D model, I think it's going to take a lot of that stutter as far as getting on the pit road there, especially in the camera that we noticed. I think that's definitely going to improve that. So with all that being said, that's about all I got. The puma in my tummy is just yelling at me. It's like I need food. So I think that's where I'm going to end it. I appreciate everybody that did stop by for Spline Design Studios Saturday. I hope you did enjoy what we had there, and have a fantastic review. Feel free to stick around for the host at the end of the stream. I will just do what I consider to be a soft raid. Not seeing anybody that want to right away go ahead and stream there. Raid, I should say. So yeah, definitely do feel free to stick around for the raid, or the host at the end of the stream. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the follow button on the channel to get the notifications for when the stream is live next. I won't be streaming again until at least Wednesday for Wreckfest Wednesday. Starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So, the socials, why is it not working? I know the bot necessarily put it out there, but there's the information for all the socials as far as the Rock Nation Discord, my Twitter, and the Spline Design Studios Facebook group page, which serves as our forums for the website. So feel free to use any and all of that information at your leisure to get all the information on what's going on in between streams. Thank you all again, I guess, for coming up on here. It's been kind of a chillax stream here. Appreciate you all hanging out here and playing around in the sandbox here, I guess, with Enter 2003. Appreciate you. We'll see y'all again real soon. Bye for now.